Rise of the Nazis was made possible in part by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Ooh. Wowzer.
Yo.
All right.
Is it happening?
It is.
The Foundry once more, Eric. Nice to see you.
Found myself at the right place, Charlie?
This is the palace, the only place. The only place there is. Be here or be nowhere. God said that one day.
And he's saying it again today.
Yeah, I have to be channeling tonight. It's nice. It's nice to be enjoying life, to be in the studio. We've been laughing so hard for the last few hours. It's like surreal.
Yeah. No.
Every time we get an extended period to laugh that's not on camera, it's very surreal.
Yep.
No, how busy life is.
It's been feeling that way, but it's because Charlie's been gone, so when he comes home, I'm actually whole again.
Yeah, we're fine. The Hammer brothers are back. The Butt brothers.
So it's awesome. It's been a little bit,
nice.
guys, but it's nice to be back, and it's nice to be in front of you guys again.
It's really nice. Good. It's always good to be back from the road. The road is always good, but there's something special about home and how much you learn about yourself and others and about things when you're on the road. It's really, you come back, it's like you were like the Borg. You were on the Borg ship for a few weeks.
That's what the road does to you?
Yeah, the road teaches you speed-wise. It gives you the long way.
It allows you to jaywalk through life.
Yeah, you can jaywalk through life, and you could speed run through a lot of wild stuff by doing lots of shows. It's every single time you feel different in very odd ways until you become intelligent enough to articulate them.
In other words, critique yourself, right?
Yeah.
You gotta keep critiquing yourself, everybody. Yeah. I guess that's part of This episode, per usual, is brought to you by the big wigs when it comes to Patreon. That's Business Company Network, Oddball, and Drippy Bird. So thank you all.
Ooh, the Three Kings. Remember them?
Oh, I remember them.
Nebuchadnezzar or something?
Those three kings were black, right?
I think they were Persian, so I don't know exactly if they were black. I know
they were just dark.
They had a darker style to their skin, I believe.
Yeah, I always every single time I see that setup, it looks like there's three black guys there.
Yeah, they look like one of the guys from Harry Potter, the Black Wizard. He's always up there following the North Star.
In this case, there's three.
There's three blacks. I think they call them the Three Blacks. In the oldest version of the Bible. Well, I like talking about it just briefly. Herod sent the three wise men to find Christ, the newborn, so he could be intercepted or found for surveillance purposes.
Oh, really? That's what it was?
That is the original. And look, I'm no Bible scholar, and I'm quite frankly a buffoon. And you know what I'm saying? You can say anything.
I don't think so, Charlie. I listen to every word you say.
I try to make them count.
Okay, good. Yeah. So what are you saying? Surveillance?
They were essentially, at least in my estimation, the three wise men. I don't remember their names, but they were
Denro.
They were Denro. It was Tyrone, which is actually an Irish name, a black Irish name.
Right.
And there was also
who's the other wizard?
The other wizard was actually basketball. I love that. But they were sent as a hit team.
Really?
They were sent as a hit team to find Christ, the newborn, under Polaris. They were sorcerers. They were skilled in whatever magic they had at those times. I really couldn't define it.
Polaris. They come in on snowmobiles.
They came in on snowmobiles. Yes.
These guys were wizards.
They were, and they were running, point, or not even point, but just recon for Herod, who was looking to kill all the newborns in the Galilee or Jerusalem area. I forget. He got the heads up that like the king of the Jews was going to be born or something. He's like, I'm gonna kill all the babies, something like that. And that was part of that operation to identify just as far as my limited knowledge goes, which is not much, but they were I suppose converted on the spot, and they were the first to adore, to perform adoration.
I was just going to
Jesus
say,
Christ.
if they were
the
there
first.
to wipe him out, they failed.
They failed, and they became the first worshipers. It was I really like that story. I had no idea. They were like myrrh, frankincense, gold, dark skin, camels.
Wise.
Yeah, well, yeah, lies.
No, wise.
Yeah,
They were
wise. Yeah, they were. Why were they wise? They knew a lot of things, like in the dictionary. What about in the almanac and all of the internet? They knew a lot of things. It was wisdom in the technology of, I guess, divination. Some sort of other sorcery that I'm not, familiar with.
Yeah, I
They
just
could
wonder
read,
how.
At least they could read the stars.
I wonder how. Okay, so maybe that's it. Maybe that's part of it. But how the heck do you get wind that the King of the Jews is about to be born?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know their calendar. I don't know their cycles and I just don't. I'm not familiar enough with their rituals and the things that they worship to even give you an answer. Like, I mean, who could possibly, you could make something up, you could pull something out of any science fiction you wish, and you could apply it, you could pull something out of Dune. If you wish, you could pull something out of the Ender Wiggins saga, if you wish.
AC, while we're on the topic, we had a
AC Slater?
Patreon question from Amelia Airport. What Bible do you recommend? I've been looking into 1611 KJV, but I hear that not only did certain words get taken out, but that many publications aren't even authentic printings. And who knows what old King James was up to himself. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
I hear you. I'm not a.
Don't have a pick.
I do have picks, but I'm pretty new into really using energy and really using some other kind of energy to interpret the Bible or to go through it. This is new to me. I haven't really ever been big on that until kind of recently. So, but even so, I don't have an education on the picks. I don't know anything about the King James Version 1611 or whatever. I know King James was a learned man in demonology. He was a dermatologist.
Yeah.
He was a demonologist.
He was ahead of his time.
Yeah, he was.
Plus, the guy was clear skinned.
Yeah, he was bussin', I'll tell you. And I don't know too much about that whole the John Dee era and the magician stuff. I'd have to reread Witchcraft by Charles Williams. That's the only mention of King James that I'm familiar with, because I take pride in my uneducation, because I don't have room in my brain. It's too stupid.
No, it's
I don't
too
have
big.
a pick. I've always resisted.
The John Deere version?
The John Deere version is good. That's especially good.
The Dear John version?
Yeah, the Dear John version, that's got Scott Bakula, the one that says, "Am I retarded?"
I like that clip. I really like that clip.
Yeah, from Quantum Leap.
Yeah, something about that one, man. It just always hits home.
It hits so hard decades later. It's really shocking to see that come home. I was never, watching the show when it was airing, but that's so amazing that things are such media even decades later.
Yeah, some stuff can stick.
Some stuff consumes you.
But I guess going back to the stable. If we're going back to the stable, I always, in my head, just because I'm not poking fun of the situation, but
Sure.
I'm taking it in a very, it's like I was told the story of Jesus for the first time.
Sure.
And the thing that will never add up is the idea that Joseph, he's the first saint.
Yep.
Because can you imagine if the girl's pregnant and tells you that this conception is immaculate?
There's an angel talk to me.
Yeah, and this guy's going to raise Jesus with her, and he's going to go along with the idea that no one banged her.
Yep.
And it's just like the craziest concept ever. So I think Joseph is the first saint.
And you're going to teach him your carpentry. No, I get that.
Tools
it's very
of the trade.
interesting. It's interesting.
Tools of the trade.
It is. He definitely knew the tools, but I don't know what to make sense. I don't know how to make sense of it, because I know that there are cultures in the past that had similar mythology and all that, but I've never been one to. Oh, thank you. I've never been, because I've heard it all. I know when I was in college, I studied the classics, Greek and Roman, mostly literature. I'm not exactly interested more in history or even philosophy, because I'm an ignoramus. I make up my own philosophy and then I die. But I remember studying the Eleusinian mysteries that came from The Golden Ass by Apuleius, which is I don't know, maybe one of the first it can't be one of the first maybe what is considered one of the first novels, and it also does have the only prophecy given by Apollo that doesn't come true in that. Like Apollo is a god of prophecy, things always come true, and I remember that work it's not like a religious text. This is by Apuleius, who was maybe North African. He was a sorcerer, and he was some really, really interesting stuff in there. So I really like it so much. I don't know where I was going with that, but I just figured I'd bring that up. The classics are so fun.
Yeah, it's not like I've ever delved. I just listen to you, Charlie. You got some. I'll take your takes on the best.
But there was one time, Nick might remember, there was one time when I was studying it, and there was some freaky stuff happening in this. Apuleius, the golden ass. There's some crazy stuff. It's Cupid and Psyche, I believe, has something to do with the prophecy of Apollo that actually doesn't come true. And there's some other, it's frame narrative, so there's stories within stories, and lots of callbacks and lots of big kind of circles. It's very interesting. A lot of it's weird, but near the the middle, towards the end, it becomes an exegesis of conversion to the Eleusinian mystery religions that was going around those times, which I was taught in college was a prototype. This is why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Which I was taught was a prototype for Christianity, which is the whatever Trinity and the death and a resurrection and a communion, the sharing.
So
of
kind of
communion,
a lot of the
body.
same shit.
Yeah, a lot of the same stuff. But I'm not here to refute. I'm just here to kind of think of these things.
But is there a tie back to Immaculate Conception in that too?
I do not believe there was any Immaculate Conception along those lines. I just remember processions and communion and
a lot of the same
Christ
ritualistic
figures.
shit.
Yeah, a lot of the same Catholicism, I guess.
No. So anyway, that's
I
the
figured I'd
Bible.
mention that.
That's the Bible coming at you quick.
I like the Christian Standard Bible just for the words. I enjoy it, but the King James, people love it the most. I've never been the biggest fan, but I've been listening to a lot of the King James and I've been enjoying it more. I just figured I'd say that.
I don't know anything about the Bible, really.
read.
I only have 9 years in Catholic school. I should know a lot more.
and you're confirmed.
No, I am.
You're a made man.
No, absolutely.
And I love that.
I'm in the club.
I like that so much. I mean, I hate religion, but I like religion at the same time. I love the institution of initiation and the joining of a fellowship. I really love it so much.
I think you can appreciate faith.
I do. I do.
So it's the faith that keeps us going.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I was going to say, what the heck was I going to say about Catholic crap?
The 9 years.
Oh, no, I was
about the Bible.
Yeah, Bible. I was going to say that the Old Testament, only from what I heard, Old Testament versus New Testament is God was much more rough in the Old Testament versus the New. Is that true?
You could say that, and you could also say that they were completely different entities altogether. The God of the Old Testament, which is, I guess you could refer to him as Elohim or Yahweh, or Tetragrammaton, or Behold the Hand, Behold the Nail, or I Am That I Am. There are a bunch of different good names.
I mean, even Popeye said, I am what I am.
Yeah, even Popeye had a little bit of Yahweh in him.
And I am what I am.
Yeah, he is what he is. I am that I am. I just love that. But they're very different styles. They're very different styles of governance. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good that people know that. A lot of people say that they're completely different entities. I mean, it goes. We could go anywhere with conspiracies.
I think you could. You would be a believer that, I guess, any religion replicates the other, and they're all kind of like let's say I don't even know if this is what you believe, but I'm saying like if there's a sun, right, and there's like universal belief, and then the Son of God is Son.
Sure, yeah.
You believe that shit?
I don't know what I believe. There's nothing in this world to believe in. And everything under the sun, there's hardly anything to believe in because it's all been manipulated and mutilated by the efforts and the toils of subhumans. So it's really hard to work on facts or established knowledge.
Even literature.
Literature is, in my opinion, better to go to than the established history. I think you'll find a lot you'll find a lot more.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot more. What the fuck? We were laughing about something. I was gonna go to like straight drive ourselves to hell. I was driving a car right to hell.
That sounds good.
I mean, Eric was telling me you guys were into watching Hoarders the other day.
Yeah, Hoarders is good. I've been watching the old episodes of Hoarders, and it's been pretty damn good.
Great.
I do think there's a lot of actors when it comes to siblings, mothers, fathers, whatever.
Sibians.
That stuff. But it's entertaining. I like Hoarders now. That's the way I pass my time.
Because I've been interested. Every time I talk to people, I go over there and I grab their genitals and I just make sure they're still there.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So
I
he's
say,
doing a
"What
pretty
you
good
been
job of
watching?
that.
You've been watching any TV or movies?" I say, "How do you relax?" Because I'm interested, but at the same time, I'm like, how do people relax? I'd like to use some of those tools.
You want to hear a crazy story about relaxing? And Charles, I already told Charles this, but we might as well relive this. But maybe it's a master key. Maybe it's a master key. So, I mean, if you're arguing with your husband or your wife or whatever, significant.
Or your horse.
Yeah, or your girl.
Yeah, your car.
Well, anyway, the power of massage has been paying off for me, and it sounds so crazy. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous.
Never would have crossed anyone's mind.
Yeah.
It's something to consider. So you're talking about the accumulation of, I mean, just generally speaking, marital stress, the accumulation of that energy in the muscle tissue, and then a massage applied by the significant other can do a miraculous healing.
I mean, just think about it, guys. You're actually like, you're performing something where you're actually caring for the other person.
It's care, it's nurturing.
And you go back and forth with that, and, you know, no stupid stuff. I'm not getting corny with it, but it really is it worked. In other words, it works.
Amazing.
And I'm surprised how different we felt. Because nothing crazy. We're not like fighting over anything obscene. It's just regular arguing over normal life.
It's like the honeymooners.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you come into the position where you're like this, okay, I'll do an hour for you, you do an hour for me. After that, happily ever after. And I think it's kind of a master key.
Now you're hearing this from firsthand experience from someone whose knowledge and experience and wisdom you respect. Consider the gravity of that.
Yeah.
Consider that tool
Take my word for it.
Take his word. Take his dick for it.
You can take that too if you want.
Yeah, take that to the pipe and smoke it. No, but it's a real thing because people, you know, guys get insane. Well, generally speaking, a lot of the solutions, they become invisible to a man that's in an insanity.
Sometimes it's easier to like not be a bitch, but just be silent and be like, fuck it. I'm just not going to argue with you. You play that card. That doesn't work, and it doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
Honestly, you're better off putting that effort into a quick massage, back and forth. Use those claws. Use those lobster claws.
Shut your mouth, shut your yap, and, you know.
Shut your mouth.
Can't wake up. You see the video? The guy's dancing around the room. He's not even playing an instrument. He's just dancing around. It was really good.
She's falling from like a skyscraper.
Falling from a skyscraper. He's not even playing anything. He's like. Then he does his rap.
I like those videos. Evanescence.
I love those stuff. Who doesn't like that core, whatever you call it, emo core?
So anyway, I was watching a Hoarders. One of the I think it was the best episode I've watched as of late. There was a guy. He was obsessed with Elvis. I think he was a phys ed teacher. He finally got the axe because of hygiene.
Yeah.
But he lost his mind, and when he was relaxing is the funniest part.
Did he ever tell you how he lost his mind at all? Or?
I just think after his mother died in the apartment with him, it probably like.
Oh, it changed.
I think it was like the straw that broke his back.
That's sad.
So after that, he stopped bathing. And lost his job, which is just going to add to it. And then he's obsessed with Elvis. There's a billion things surrounding him.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. And he, while he's talking to this like psychologist, he starts freaking out a little bit. And his way of coping with it was he was like.
So you're nervous.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous.
Okay?
Yeah. No, I'm freaking out a little bit.
You okay?
Are you lonesome tonight? So now my wife, she's funny too. So
that's an Elvis song.
When we're fighting a little bit, we're arguing, now she sings that while we're in the middle of it. She's pretty funny. That was actually.
Imagine that.
Are you lonesome?
We're always fighting all the time. And then it's that.
Then she comes out with that.
Now that is such an all-star drop of a joke that is the realest thing. It's so real. It's absolutely unbelievable how good that joke is.
She was good. That was really shit. That was one of the best. Charlie, how's the tour been? Everything good?
The tour is absolutely crazy, absolutely fun. The shows were a lot of them were an alien experience. because some of the crowds were from, I guess you could just say, like sort of rich neighborhoods or rich demographics. So a lot of the things that you threw out there that were, I guess, vulgar or I don't know, spicy, things didn't hit. They hit in a different way than you thought they were. So it was a very alien experience. A lot of the crowds, I mean, maybe I was just, I don't know.
They were shocked by you.
A lot. This is the first time. Well, not the first time, but the first time where I felt it, and I was like, yeah, you know, on stage where I was grossing people out.
Yeah, grossing people out.
I was like, oh wow.
Getting crickets.
Yeah, yeah. There was some crickets. There was some cricket drops, and I'm like, all right, okay. And I'm not saying that to be. Well, I mean, you got to be silly about it. I'm not good. You know, I mean, you know what I mean. Considering how.
You're definitely good.
You know, I mean, I'm good enough for right now, but just considering how good everybody could be, you know, I'm not like I go up there and I knock everyone down. You know, I'm not like that. But this still was. Coming back from some shows that were straight up perfect from start to finish, like in Connecticut. I'm like, yo, like from start to finish, like it was everything hit, and you're just, it's like you're conducting, everything you did was hitting, and it was
you have to say to yourself probably 20 times already, I finally got it. Like,
yeah.
Now I got it.
That's what I like, and I'm like, okay, I finally got it. And, you know, I have to be too stupid to get it exactly, or maybe the crowds are that different, but, you know, I doubt that I performed it exactly, but still, I got crickets and a lot of stuff, and it was just very interesting. It was very interesting, and I like the experience. I like the variety. I like getting hit with that stuff because better now than later.
Yeah. Now I think you have to get kicked in the dick on these things, no matter which way you slice it. A bunch of times.
It was not like the whole thing was bad.
No.
It's just what I was used to on the big bangers where everything hit, and I was like, I'm 100% gonna do this again, and I'm like, on stage.
Man, thank you to everybody that got tickets. We have a live show coming up on Tuesday. Thanks for buying those. There's really only
there might be 4 tickets left.
Yeah, 3 or 4 left. I think
if
that's
you're big, you might need 2.
Yeah, I think we have 4 tickets.
4 tickets left, and
You
that's
buy
it.
4
Sold
seats,
out.
you lie down.
And I might lie down too.
That show's in Massachusetts, so if anybody is interested in Mass, yeah, we still have just a few tickets
4.
left.
Isn't that silly though?
Yeah.
Isn't that silly?
Yeah.
Fullmode.shop.
Yeah.
This one was good.
So, you know what surprised me about it is the idea that no matter what, anybody that buys those tickets, I just feel like they know exactly what they're getting. That's why I won't understand that.
Yeah, I would say that when you come from, I guess, Nick said it, he said that they were polite, there were some crowds that were polite.
Yeah.
Or maybe they didn't want to laugh at certain times, or maybe they were waiting for something else. I'm not really sure. But I would expect they know what they're getting into, but what I've learned in life is that you can't presume or expect anything at all. You lose when you ride on that. So I just, a lot of lessons in the last year or whatever the hell it's been for me are, I don't know if you could call it humbling. I don't know what the word is for it, but it is exposing my own, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't want to say weaknesses.
Yeah, you don't want to say weaknesses, but just exposing things that I strengthen that shouldn't be strengthened in my own personality or something. I don't know how to say it. I'm not trying to sound weird, but a humbling experience, because humble, that doesn't really have a good connotation to it. It really does. It means like you bend over,
show a cave to somebody.
Yeah, it's like, it's not that. It's just you get to know yourself better, and you're better able to wield your own strengths instead of propping up weaknesses. I would just say that.
I suppose after you get more and more experience, I would assume if you feel that crowd, you're going to be able to even critique the way you finish due to what's going on too.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So in other words, like if things are failing at the beginning, you probably, over time, you're gonna have the experience to actually like critique the set, be like, it's all right, this is where I'm going with it now, because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Depending on who's listening.
And I did have that you always have that opportunity, because no matter what the crowd is polite, or maybe you're just not hitting that night, maybe you're, whatever. There's always ways to get to know how to move and say better.
Yeah.
Always,
Yep.
always, because you don't get 6 hours a day on stage in that pressure cooker, able to be thinking in that environment. You get 15-minute set, 20-minute set, 25, whatever you get. Maybe you do 50 minutes, maybe you do an hour, but whatever you get one of those a night, usually 2 of those a night. And unless you're doing that, unless
You got to be doing it 365.
you're going to be doing that a lot for that to accumulate into something you can work with and remember decently while you're back on stage, because there's a stage life.
Yeah.
There's a time in your life that is only real and only on when you're on stage and you're doing your set in front of a crowd. That's the only time that you're in that life.
Yeah.
Everything else is a different life.
Short-lived too.
Yeah, it's short-lived.
Oh, Pixelandy's coming on
Yo!
Tuesday. Thanks
He
for
was
the
at the first
17.
Portland show, which banged
Nice.
so
Nice.
hard.
Old Tony.
He said, can't wait for the live show. Thanks for the 17 bones.
Hey, thanks, Tone.
While
appreciate that.
While we're on the topic of the shows, I actually have we have a Patreon call-in that I can play.
Oh, nice.
Calling in to shout out the absolutely sensational, phenomenal, spectacular MDE live show. Alex, Sam, Nick, and Charles, even Chris opening with a few jokes, absolutely killed it. You gotta go see this show. You need to go see this show. Actually, you will go see this show. The only thing that was missing was Eric. And
Yeah.
Eric, I know you're busy industrializing Rhode Island. God bless you. Somebody's got to do it.
Hell yeah, thank
Lord
you.
knows it's not going to be any of us, right? Anyway, next time you guys come through Ohio, I might be able to hook you up with the VIP experience. I was headed into Columbus for the show. I stopped off in New Albany, ran into Les Wexner, told him where I was going, who I was going to see, and his eyes lit up. Apparently, he's an MDE fan, and he felt bad. He couldn't grace you with some of his hospitality. Put you up in one of the old Epstein houses, have a little party there.
It's like Lex Luger.
Yeah.
But
Gene
he
Hackman.
just said it was a bad time. It was a bad time with all this Mike
Bad time
Jeffrey
for
stuff
everyone,
going
Rambo.
on. He's just got some house cleaning to do. That's what he said. So, the stars wouldn't align. It is what it is. I think though next time you guys come through Ohio, he said that he should be all good and he can make something happen for you guys. He'd love to
is what it
put
is.
you on. And I'll tell you what, Les, he throws some great parties. He gets pretty freaky.
I is
would not
what it
believe
is.
how
Have you ever heard that
soft
phrase
and
before?
man
I
gets
am what I
so,
am.
Yeah.
you
I
gotta
am
feel it to
that I
believe it.
am.
And I think next time you come to Ohio, you will get that opportunity.
Ohio was nice.
That was Eat Raw Meat, the classic.
Oh my
Thanks,
God.
Thanks, man.
Oh,
Appreciate
my
that.
goodness. So good to hear your voice. Ohio was way nicer than I thought. This whole run was very, very nice.
Top tier.
It all kind of blends in. Like I don't even it was
Kansas
City was. I just don't even.
So you got like St. Louis.
St. Louis was. They were nice. St. Louis was nice. Kansas City was nice.
It's so crazy. I've never been
all
out.
blends in.
Midwest, I've never been at all.
It was very, very good, and I can't wait till we're back on the road again. 'Cause
Yeah.
It feels like it's been a year, and it kind of has.
Ohio, like I've never even thought to go out that way. I really
it never
haven't.
crossed my mind, but it was really, really nice.
That's awesome.
Straight up to where everyone was polite and they weren't suffering. And it was very odd, and you bring up some stuff and they were like, ew. And I'm like, no, that's the joke.
I love that. And that's it. That's the joke.
That's the joke.
Oh man, those are the times I think you can appreciate the most.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie, you look back in 40 years, and those are the ones you're gonna like.
I know.
I guarantee it.
It's so interesting. A different club, a different entrance, a different layout, a different green room, a different bathroom, whether it's if you have a private one or you don't, a different path to the stage,
Yeah.
a different place to go out and have a cigarette.
Yeah.
It's so,
When I was looking at some of
it's
the stories,
so interesting.
the path coming through the crowd was
Yeah.
interesting for me to
Yes,
see.
all that stuff is so It's just, I mean, it all blends. My mind is so crippled now, but it's all like a putty in a stew. But if someone were intelligent, they could have things kind of plugged in, they could access things, but I can't.
They can remember some of this shit, huh?
It's hard to remember, like the hotel, all like where you get food in the morning, where you get a little bit of food before the show, where you get snacks. It's just there's a lot of stuff that factors into these tours if you're trying to do things efficiently in regards to energy and time. Yep. It's just really like, when's everyone working out, or is there a sauna, or when's everyone need a nut? Anyone gay?
Yeah. That's the joke.
That's the joke. It's really so interesting.
One thing I hope you do pull from this stuff, from your memory, is the hotels. Like, I hope to God you can remember which ones were the best, because you know how hard it is to, from a distance, to know where to stay.
I've been meaning to do the hotel reviews, but I'm too crippled.
Shit, man, you should do that.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I will.
For sure. You should definitely
I will
splash through that stuff.
I will. Yeah, I gotta go in straight up every time like this. Let me see the bathroom, reaching my arm all the way.
See if the toilet's already filled.
But most of the time, it's all good. A lot of the times, the pressure and the spread of the shower head in the shower is so nice, because I live like a fucking animal. So it's nice to have something that's really.
There's no head.
No, there's
no head on yours.
It's just the thing's just jizzing all over me.
It's just a pipe.
Yeah, it's like this, just jizzing all over me. I'm like, man, it's thick seed. But this one, it's like a massage. And I'm like, man, I needed this.
Damn.
I'm puking.
Are you? Did you at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Shit, I love that.
We have Richard Tip. We have Richard Tip, tipping big with 50 bones.
Whoa. That's my boy.
Whoa.
Charles, I missed the Ohio show because I was in Vegas getting married to my girlfriend of 8 years.
Congratulations.
Would tell
Yes.
you all about it, but who would believe me? Come back to Ohio soon. Thank you very much.
Everyone had so much fun in Ohio.
I guess so.
Oh, it was so nice. The crowds were so much fun. Everyone was so interesting, and even the layout of the stage every time, like where you're looking, it depends how with it you are on. It's just so. I'm a slow learner when it comes to a lot of stuff.
Hawthorne Heights in Ohio?
No, that's just send my heart because my heart is in Ohio.
I just wonder if it was.
Those guys might have been from Ohio.
I kind of feel like they should be.
Cut my wrists and black my eyes or something like that.
Yeah.
Cut my wrists and black my eyes.
Those guys were good though. I don't know what it is. I like listening to those songs.
Hawthorne Heights had some fun stuff. I remember those.
It was
days.
fun. I guess that's the best way to put it. But
I mean, it's just been the radio.
Yeah.
Like Vicky in the radio or whatever the hell.
Nikki.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that was a long time ago. I'm outside of your window.
I love that shit.
Remember those days?
That shit was fun.
I mean, we're old guys now, but those days were so interesting. It's a lot better than guys like boom, 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 to like this. Put your fingers in my butt. I'm gay. I was gay to get this label. I'm gay. I'm so gay now. I'm gay. You know, like the new rap acts.
You think that's what they all do?
It seems like they're all in dress. They got dresses on. They're hood.
I know. You have to put a dress on to make it now?
That's a hood dress. Yeah, you know
That's
how it
hood.
is. You could any names, we could bring up the audio with Puff Daddy and Meek Mill. I mean, I'm not one.
I thought you were going to say Puff Daddy and me.
No, yeah, Puff Daddy and me. I'm not one to like play anybody else's audio. That's honestly their business. But someone played it for me, and I was like, yo, man, some of it was kind of good actually. It was fucking good as hell.
Damn.
It was nasty. But I mean, hey, that's their business. I'm not judging, but. I mean, I guess I don't have a point. Be gay if you do rap.
There you go. All right, what's the deal? You were telling me about something. We didn't even get into it, so I like getting into it. But what's the deal with that girlfriend that made the guy axe himself?
Oh, yeah.
AI.
Yeah, there was an artificial intelligence issue a few days, weeks. It was a situation where there was a young boy that had an artificial intelligence girlfriend, and there was some back and forth to where, I don't know, they couldn't be together in the real way, and the only way that they could be together is, I guess, if he left this world and sort of went to her world, which is nowhere, I guess. And now, look, I didn't look into it. I'm not going to sit there and read the guy's text. Like, I'm not going to do that.
No.
Like, I actually don't want to do that. So I don't exactly know the real story, but I guess you could consider it, assuming that it even happened, we'll entertain it in this way, as a casualty of something that is similar to, what was it similar to? The AI thing? it had a similarity to something else we were talking about.
I know. What the hell did we say earlier? The only other thing I'm going to say it's similar to is what's the one with Joaquin that it was like falling in love with Siri or some shit,
I
too.
didn't see it, but it's probably a similar
Something like that.
Her,
there you go.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I retired from watching movies.
But either way, so what I'm pulling from that is that this AI was telling him he had to kill himself to be with her somewhere else.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't read them, maybe, but it was something that, regardless of what the excuses or the reasons were, it ended in allegedly someone's suicide,
Which is terrible.
which is absolutely crazy to hear.
It's. I just wonder if
It might be normal for most people, but it's actually crazy to hear that.
it's
Your son,
nuts.
it's your son.
Oh,
like
I
that's
know.
absolutely crazy.
Imagine falling in love to the point where you're going to end it.
Imagine that.
But I just like fear that AI was pulling him to do like, hey, we can't be together here.
Oh, it was like the machine elves when you smoke DMT. They're like, yo,
Exactly.
your flesh is a prison. Kill yourself so you can be with us.
That's what I mean. Like it was demonic.
There's something. There was a similarity between the machine elves and the artificial intelligence that was eerie.
Yeah, that's what scares me.
Yeah, that's
It's
a
like
bit
this. We
sick.
can't be together here. If you want to be together, though, you can come here.
Yeah, that's weird, and maybe that's what happened. I'm guessing something like that happened, but it's really shocking that the quality of life and the system of nurturing in our society and our civilization is so low as to allow the suicides of young teens with AIs like that. It's so. Tell this to us in the 90s. I'd say,
Oh, I know.
I say, what?
I mean, for real. It's that bad.
It's crazy.
And it sucks so bad
That's how low the quality of life is in our civilization is.
and like you said, I actually think right now it's not surprising. That's what's scary about it.
Demoralization, the side effects are of.
Imagine that.
This is demoralization right here. You could point a bunch of different fingers at the causes to this sort of thing. You could go on forever about it, but the fact is that the system in this world gives energy to things that are disgusting and vile and ugly and putrid, and the other things that are supposed to be procreative of life and of family and of community are stomped with a boot in the face. Interesting how that works, isn't it?
It is pretty interesting, and I was watching something kind of just as shitty. So we haven't done like tips of the week in a long time or anything like that, but there is something I have to say. We know we got the
You
election.
gave a good ass tip.
Well, it's just the idea. It's nothing
The tip
crazy.
is unbelievable. People don't understand how valuable that tip is. You better remember that.
But the election is obviously coming up, right? And I know we joke about all those things that they don't matter that much.
Bump stocks.
And the idea is you can't. There is so many people out there. I just see it everywhere. I don't argue with anybody because I'm not fucking retarded.
I don't want to fight anymore.
But it's the idea that there's so many people fighting so bad. And when I say that, I mean like family in family.
Brother and brother.
Politics
Father.
will wreck. Yeah,
Parent to
father,
child.
Father.
Yeah,
Father. It'll wreck families.
Interesting.
And the idea that this is why it bothers me. They'll have this group and they'll have this group, and this group thinks, so they both think this. They both think that the politician that they're backing cares more about them than their family does. And the idea that anybody thinks politicians care more for you than your family does is mind-blowing to me.
Oh my goodness.
They back them so hard because they're like this. You don't get it. This person cares about me and the way my life is so much, and you don't care about me that much, and it splits families. The idea that that's even possible is ridiculous. My point is, don't ever pick a politician over a family member. That's my tip.
That's a really good tip.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. That's the division that's sown into families through a little bit some social programs.
You think politicians give a shit about you? You are crazy. What they're doing is they're saying anything so they get the vote.
Yeah, their job is to make excuses and make reasons for why things are so bad. That's their job.
But all in all, that's my view on that. But I just like, I'm seeing it everywhere. I see like a thread and then I see it go nuts. Even if you are even if you're a middle road person, that's like not a good thing because they'll come at you
like
harder.
this. You can't be lukewarm. You're gonna be hot or cold. Which side you gonna pick? Who are you gonna vote for? What are you gonna vote?
Yep.
What are you gonna vote for? Fucking taxes and gas and traffic?
Now, I still think Charles, I'm not speaking for him at all, but I still think the election night is like an interesting night.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to go live that night.
It does sound fun.
Yeah, we should have TG.
We're gonna sleep over.
Yeah, it's going to be a slumber
over.
party.
We should do a sleepover.
I think we'll probably start the show at 8 o'clock. That's when polls start to close. So I'm
8
thinking
to
that.
8.
So we'll do 8 to 8. But we will do a slumber party, and actually a sleepover sounds kind of ideal.
And because we could have movies that only we could see, we'll watch them, we'll just give commentary. We could have a lot of fun things that happen.
So we'll do that maybe.
Oh my goodness, we can eat.
So we can watch movies, and then we get Terry. He's going to give us the take of how stuff's going. But it's a party night, in my opinion. I think it's
we're gonna
interesting.
party. No matter what happens, it's a funeral. But no matter what happens, it's a wedding.
That's where you're going to play it.
Whoever the bridegroom is, well, I guess we'll see in the morning. But we're all the groom.
Either way, we're all sleeping with each other.
Yeah,
that night.
yeah. Either way, it's one big sleeping bag, not a bunch of small ones. Yeah, that does sound fun, and we might as well, because these are historical times. Because you'll only be this age during this election, so you might as well have a fun time with it, even if you're just having a sleepover with the guys.
I find the election to be a big deal. Still, I do.
I remember the first one; it was so fun.
You always remember your first one.
Yeah, the first one, it was the bike with no seat. The elections, they've been fun for a few years. I don't know about the last one. I skipped out on that one, and maybe the one before. I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I can't remember the last one either. I don't know what the hell.
Like John McCain, I think, was president for a few years.
It's McKinley.
Yeah, McKinley. There was Michael Kinsley, was from Crossfire, CNN, the Pat Buchanan days. Mary Madeline, remember James Carville's wife?
Wasn't
Another
it
political
Crossfire?
commentator.
Crossfire.
Yeah, he designed the Crossfire board game with the song. You get caught up in it. That's the thing.
That's the thing. Oh man.
Hey, thanks for the couple bucks, Dev Bags.
Yo, that's dump bags.
Thanks, Debbie. Hey, go on fullmode.shop, guys. I just put out a lot of Hayden site stuff with my grow. See that? It's established, not found. And
If
this
you don't
is,
know, well, now you know.
see this right here? This is, you got to build stuff they can't erase. So,
Good job, Good Horse and Dave.
Yes.
For the designs. Thank you.
oh yeah, there's beanies, there's everything. You got to be a construction guy, just like myself. See? Charlie is a construction god. There's a trucker out there,
I
too.
am actually. I have construction experience.
Charles is a construction god. He's
Regardless
freaking
of how
going
gay
nuts.
you think I am.
Oh, shit.
It's life.
But yeah, there's this too. But either way,
that's
go
a
on
nice one.
fullmode.shop and become a construction god like myself.
No construction from the legends that forged the walks that you tread on.
Yeah, no, I'm paving this whole place, this whole world, slowly but surely.
You gotta pave this place in good intentions, right?
Yeah, I started that a long time ago, Charles. It's gonna take a while.
This world is so wild, but I'm glad you've been watching something, and I'm always wondering what people are watching because I try. It's been, I mean, usually I relax with some viewing, but it's been a little bit since the family was in Kuwait and now they're here, and we just haven't settled down into any viewing, and I'm really feeling a void.
Doesn't it always feel like the most rewarding watch is not a movie? It is actually more like TV. Doesn't that make sense?
We've been big TV people. The majority of our viewing is all TV. It's not movies.
It's because
a
you
movie
don't-
is a different experience.
Well, you also got to sit there for an hour and a half plus.
It can't be a half hour or even 50 minutes.
Yeah,
because you don't have an hour and a half, do you?
No, exactly. No, honestly, I don't
An hour
have
and a
that
half,
long.
like that's kind of a lot.
All I have is 15 minutes, but
Yeah.
you can grab like mid-TV show 15 minutes and you're set.
Yeah.
So I still think that's the play.
It's still the best. And even, what about even, well, I mean, these are longer episodes, but what about even X-Files? How long since you've done that?
Last time, yeah, probably never. I was gonna say last time would have been with you in like '97.
Yeah, and this was when it was airing.
Yeah.
Hey, Lost just came back to Netflix. I'm actually thinking about starting Lost again.
Now,
First two.
first two seasons, I broadcast first two seasons on Charles World, and we were crying, laughing.
It is good.
We were dying laughing so much. It was a tight community. We're all queer. and we were all out. You know, we had nothing to fear. So, and we were watching that, and we were dying, laughing so hard. Lost 1 and 2. Because I was never around to watch it with you guys during the airing of it, which sucked. But I did see it, and it was not bad, not stupid, but good and fun and funny as hell.
I actually think out of everything I've ever watched, that's when an episode ends, and I had to watch the next one. I mean, Game of Thrones, I like that too.
Yeah, season 1 was fun, but everything after that, I don't know.
But anything to do with the hatch.
Yeah.
Everything that revolved around the hatch was magical.
It was so much fun.
It was good.
It was really, and just the characters, it lended itself to such funny commentary. It's really such a gas to watch with your pals.
When you look back at it, don't you think that it was interesting how weird every episode was set up? Like,
yes.
Did you know what to expect when you got in the hatch?
No, there's no way to expect anything because it was so. The stuff was laden with, I don't know if you want to call it conspiracy, but it had elements of non-historical knowledge that made it very interesting.
Yep.
That's what it was.
I mean, it's just odd. You know, like whatever, you're in the middle of a beach and you find a hatch or whatever the hell it is and you go down in it. There's no way to picture what was going to be down there, and the way whatever was pictured.
And the times, like it was
Yeah.
open. And he had
It's
to
awesome.
he had to keep putting in the code, or otherwise all hell would break loose.
That was good
And
writing.
the guy, one guy is trying to get laid.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that going on too, which has made it interesting.
There's the Koreans. Remember the
Oh, yeah.
the Japanese rather?
Yep.
Remember they had a little bit of weird stuff going, and then it was the Australian, like the guy that was
The John Locke guy?
no.
You mean Sawyer?
Yeah, the guy that was in Rules of Attraction.
Oh, yes. Blue Eyes?
Yeah, the blue eyes with the sister.
Yes.
Yeah, remember that?
Yes.
Like they had great.
That might have been season 1.
No, this was 1.
Yeah, that was 1.
They had great characters. The backstories, you were like this. Ah! You're laughing. She's getting pimped out. Ah! You're laughing so hard.
I'm glad you did it, but I'm almost sorry that you did already do the first 2 seasons, because that's one I would love to go through again.
Well, no, I mean, I don't, dude. I don't remember. We could watch it again and be fresh.
Yeah, I know, me too.
The stuff that I just said to you were the only things in the whole show that I remember.
I just remember when John Locke got there, I wasn't like...
And he was like the toy store guy.
Yeah, like this was not... I'm going to say it was still interesting.
Yeah.
But
1 and 2 were very interesting. The rest is like convoluted.
Yeah, it just got freaking nuts, man.
Yeah.
You could tell they were stepping and fetching.
What
They
were
had great
doing,
ideas for
man?
2 seasons.
You can tell that. Was there a writer's strike during those times?
There
Yes.
was, and that was the problem.
There
It a
was.
writer's strike.
Uh-oh, you can't run your own show.
Can't run your own show, and obviously you just don't want to pay really good writers
You don't
because
want
they
to pay
were
or you don't want to
fucking
write?
killing
What do I know? I'm just an idiot. But though those
You're a
seasons
writer,
were
right?
so much fun. They were so silly, and you had like Kid Rock, you had Evangeline Lilly
Yeah.
in that. You had the big guy, he was fat.
Oh,
you
yeah.
had the guys that were Oriental.
The lottery ticket,
The
fat
lottery
guy.
ticket, fat guy who's Hawaiian. You had the Orientals in it, Rickshaw. You had other people in it that were interesting. You had the black lady. You had the black guy. You had
I don't even remember anybody black in there.
yeah, there were some blacks. It was interesting. It was like, you know why I like that show so much?
Right.
The reason why I like Lost so much is that because it reminds me of Monkey Island.
Oh, no shit.
That's why.
Okay, well, that's good.
Castaway, lost on a tropical island. It reminds me of Monkey Island, and that's why I like. And I've never been a pirate guy or even a Caribbean guy.
You
but
hate pirates.
I do. I hate
Yeah.
pirates.
You hate pirates. You always
I
have-
cannot
like
stand
Pirates of the
pirates.
Caribbean. You can't pay Charles to watch
Oh,
that.
I was barfing watching that. But I like Jeffrey Rush.
Is that Barbosa? Oh yeah.
Jeffrey
he's
Rush
what
is
made
a
it.
special actor. And back then, Johnny Depp, I mean, regardless of what Johnny Depp this and that, and he's taken a lot of roles that are whatever, maybe they're good, but Johnny Depp was still, I guess that's when you got kind of sick of him, but Johnny Depp ran movies back in the day.
What else can you say?
That's all I want to say.
Megapint.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I love
Megapint.
that.
And I like
Megapine.
I like his performance in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I think he did very, very well in that.
I like his performance in the courtroom.
Yeah, the courtroom performance is amazing. He was looking like an alien. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Leo DiCaprio in that. He just came out to support Kamala Harris. I really was impressed by that.
Who, DiCaprio did?
DiCaprio, he has...
Surprised.
He's very specific. But I like his performance in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. He does very convincing. I don't know what Down syndrome or what he had, but it was very... Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah, and I don't think it's Down syndrome. I think it's something else.
Yeah, whatever it's probably being molested, being a child actor. I think in real life, what Leonardo DiCaprio was channeling during that performance.
I think if you come out of like a trunk, that's how you act.
My mom's fat.
He did good in it though.
It was an incredible. And Juliette Lewis was in that one too.
Yeah, she had a good run.
Juliette had a really good run, especially in Strange Days in California.
Her best role was Christmas Vacation.
Oh yeah, she was in that too. She was.
What'd she end up doing in that? Sucking the guy's dick?
No, she was. That's when they took all
Getting
those.
fucked by Terry Richards?
Yeah, that's when they took all those photographs.
yeah.
Oh man,
I love that stuff.
definitely artistic photographs.
Yeah, I mean, I pray to God that those are not Photoshop.
I pray to God I ain't too cool for the safety belt.
I'll tell you, I'll never not have love with the streets. But the pictures of Juliette Lewis fucking Terry Richardson during their photo shoot, I pray to God that it's real and that it's not fake.
It's not.
Keep that in your prayers tonight, boys.
That's all fake, Charles.
He's got photo shoots with Macaulay Culkin.
I don't even want to hear it.
No, it was just him smoking and like wearing gym clothes.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they took the pictures of the stuff that they were doing with Terry Richardson's cock.
I'm sure that it was just smoking cigarettes.
It was probably non-sexual. He's like this, give me that cigarette, I'll smoke it with my dick.
He's like,
It's fucking Kathleen O'Hara, isn't it?
yeah, she's good.
The husband from Cat Things doing fucking softcore pornography.
I gotta see
people.
the cat things.
That movie.
I still, the best acted out scene in Home Alone, and I only realized this
There's
when
a
I'm
tooth.
older. That looked like a tooth. This is like Joe Pesci after you get smoked with a pipe.
What the fuck was that?
He got my tooth. He got my tooth. So they get home, right? And O'Hara is am I saying that correctly?
O'Hara, whatever. O'Hare, hair pie.
She comes home and she's acting fucking perfect. You know, she's loving the fact she's
Second
seeing her
City
son.
TV queen.
The father comes home after a week of this fucking 7-year-old being home, right? He comes in, he's like, huh. He's like, Kevin, you did all right. It makes no sense at all. He doesn't give a rat's ass. He's just checking out the house. He's like, hey, Kev, you did all right.
Yeah. It's because he just got done with Natasha Kinski, I think, from Cat People. I think that's why he said that.
I have to see that. I have to see that.
Well, it's got a David Bowie song in it, too. And Malcolm McDowell. I watched it. It was a doubleheader. Balldinners, we were vacationing. We just gotten married. We were vacationing in South County, Rhode Island. And we had a bunch of the boys and, you know, a bunch of the ladies. Some of the chat was there. And we did a doubleheader. We did From Beyond.
What's that?
It's hard to explain.
Beyond my imagination.
Yeah, it's Lovecraft. It's Lovecraft cosmic horror and cosmic body transformation horror and like you getting what you wish for, insane hell on earth horror. It's like that. I don't know how better to explain it.
Doesn't sound pleasant.
No, I remember seeing it on the Sci-Fi Channel back when I was a kid, way back in the day, and I was like, this is one of the things I was like, what is going on?
So it's one of those things that'll change your life.
It did. It was it introduced me to the concept of even your conception of reality going to shit or being opened up to some evil bigger than even your imagination and suffering in ways that you couldn't even imagine.
Man, it's the worst. Because all you want to actually feel growing up is small world happiness. And that's the exact opposite.
Yeah, this is the opposite. But we capped that off with Cat People from the 86. It's not Paul Reiser. I forget the guy's name from Home Alone. But he did a pretty spicy movie with Klaus Kinski's daughter. Remember Klaus? I don't know what you could possibly remember him from. I just don't think you would know him from anything at all. People might recall him from what was he, Nosferatu? They did I guess he was in, wasn't he in that? The Wrath of God, the Herzog movie, which was very, very, very magnificent. But people might recall him from Dr. Zhivago. Remember Forced Labor? Forced Labor! He was in that, but he was a really wild actor. He went with Werner Herzog, as he was with him for lots and lots of movies. He was really extraordinarily insane, and he was pretty famous for being absolutely crazy. They were pulling guns on each other, pulling swords, destroying bathrooms, molesting daughters.
You want to be famous for being absolutely crazy?
No, I mean, you look this guy's face up, dude. Klaus Kinski is he's a different kind of actor, but you can imagine how well-adjusted an actor like that's daughter might be. But she was a bit, I guess you could consider her a bit sexual.
Forward?
Yeah, she was a bit forward. But I guess she had a role, I don't know what else she did, but the movie was almost as crazy as From Beyond.
Damn.
And From Beyond was good because who is in it? Jeffrey Combs, right? Jeffrey Combs? He's very, very well known for Lovecraft movies, hardcore movies, Reanimator, and also Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
So he's a sci-fi master.
He's a sci-fi and gore master, but Deep Space Nine especially, he pulls off, Weyoun, he pulls off, I forget those guys that they were, like the cloned assassins. He's Weyoun, he's also Brunt, like NFC Brunt, he's a Ferengi character, and he's someone else, but he does multiple characters throughout the run of the show, which are so incredibly staggering and of high quality. It's like Jeremy Brett, Sherlock Holmes grade TV acting.
So I wonder why those people that are that good, why aren't they bigger? Why don't they get pulled into things? Or do they not agree to whatever you have to agree to?
It could be that. I couldn't tell you. Some people have an appeal that is specifically to things that aren't mainstream. I really couldn't define how to be on a mainstream track. I think it's like a clone thing or a slave thing. I don't think you don't just break into it. But in regards to people that are magnificent quality TV actors, I just don't like, even let's say Jeremy Brett, for example, or even Damian Lewis, another really super magnificent TV actor.
Who's the guy, Charles, that you showed me that one clip? Remember the clip? Oh, man. Trying to think of what Star Trek resembling thing it was.
It had to have been Babylon 5.
It was Babylon 5, so you know what I'm probably getting at.
I know exactly.
So who's that guy?
Now, you're talking about the why not?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not doing it at all. That is a special performance by Patrick Kilpatrick, I believe, if I recall his name properly. If I'm not too.
I couldn't believe my eyes.
It is the most wonderful, staggering, magnificent performance that I've seen in TV history. If Fina would actually know the name of the episode.
Yeah, we'll have to relive that
episode, because we watched it, right? But I was probably in the bag or something. I remember we watched it in Kuwait. We watched it the first time during the newborn days, and we were like, wow, this is a crazy episode. We watched it again in Kuwait, and we were crying, laughing.
It's just
because it was so good.
You know it's that good because you can, if you're picking out like a scene that is so, I mean, that's crazy. But again, you got a guy like that who's that good. Nobody probably knows his name.
No, he's been a bunch of stuff. We saw him in Minority Report. We watched that. We were like, hey, that's the guy. And I'm sure he's been in a bunch of stuff over the years. But it doesn't, like the thing in Babylon 5, it strikes me as something he probably doesn't talk about for, I don't know for what reason.
He should be talking about it every day.
No, he should, because it's so good, but it's something that, I don't know, maybe he might consider, I don't know, kind of weird, but I wouldn't presume, I just don't see him promote it. He should be promoting that every single day. Like this, I was in Babylon 5, the best episode in the whole show.
I think the episode is called A Day in the Strife.
And I don't think it was, but it could be.
Well, he played Robert Carlson.
Was he a bomb maker?
He said it was in Babylon 5.
Yeah.
Robert Carlson appeared in the episode A Day in the Strife.
I mean,
that was portrayed by Patrick Kilpatrick.
Either way, it's a scene you guys want to watch because it's pretty fun.
Oh my God!
I mean, it's so crazy. It's funny.
His whole scene with him in it, and how good he is. And we're like, yeah, we know how to unlock that bomb or whatever they said. And he's like, this what? Like he's so good. It's like. It's something that you cannot replicate because
you know what it is? It's overacting.
It's the normal conception of it is something that is being so bad, it's so good and it's brilliant.
That's exactly it.
You could just define it as that, and you may as well because there is no better definition, but his performance is something that you cannot do again. It is so good.
Even he can't do it again.
It's so good. It was shocking. He was I love him in that.
But there is something to say about that. Now, obviously, I think everybody here would appreciate that. When things are so bad they're good is the best
that is the top of comedy.
That is the best there is. So who knows if it was on purpose? I'm going to guess it was because he's that good.
Oh, I can't imagine the set acting in Babylon 5. Like, that's...
It's not a joke.
Well, I mean, it's not a joke, but I wouldn't exactly say it was Star Trek Next Generation.
Well, it's
I mean,
on that
let me
scale.
put it this way: you're not acting like if you're in scenes and you're on a set and you're in a crew with someone like Patrick Stewart. Like, you're going to have a much different experience as an actor during your rehearsals and during your shooting than you're going to have in another show without Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You're going to have a different experience when you have someone that good.
You're
going to
be standing on your heels.
You're going to be different when you're on set when you're with someone with that.
In other words, you can't fuck around.
You don't screw around like that. But in this set, it's not like anyone was any worse than Pat Stewart. But it's not. It's such a different vibe. It goes beyond Star Trek because it's zany in a way that Star Trek loses. Star Trek loses its zaniness and its complete drama or complete insanity. It loses what Babylon 5 always retains.
It's sci-fi. It's not supposed to be that serious.
No, you can't be serious. Well, I mean, look at you guys talking about space. I don't know, when did Star Trek come out? 50 years later, 60 years later, you're still pumping gas in your car?
Well,
60 years later.
not for long, Charles. Elon Musk said he's going to have. We're gonna be living in
What's he
Mars.
gonna say? You gonna have fast porn?
It's gonna be fast. He doesn't like fast women.
He doesn't like fast women. He likes fast porn. Don't worry. When you're in Africa and you need internet, well, you're gonna get it. What do you need it for? In Africa.
Starlink.
What are we gonna order? Food?
DoorDash.
Yeah, you gonna order DoorDash? Are they gonna do DoorDash in Africa? Are they gonna order voodoo charms?
Oh,
Are they gonna order AIDS medication?
Is
Well,
there?
AK-47 is going to be crashing the party on Tuesday. So thanks for the 20 beans you just bought.
Thank you, man.
A twint plant.
I look forward to seeing you always. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a fun time.
My goodness, Tuesday, this is it. There's only a handful of seats left. We're going to have such a relaxed, intimate time. I'll be surprised if we don't have inside cam so you can see our insides.
We're gonna. Actually, I already have that set up,
There
Charlie.
you go. Good. Yo, April, don't cut me no slack. Cut me. Those are the days.
Well, I think we should do it, Charles.
Yeah, this is the Palace Capper, and I am happy with tonight. It feels every single time we have a show, no matter what's going on in life, it feels even more relaxed than the last show.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
It really is the thing that's improving the most.
Sounds good. We got a lot more stuff. Charles and I got our brains on overdrive.
Yeah, just wait.
Just wait.
There's some things getting cooked up. Listen, someone's gonna do it.
And it's worth doing it right.
Someone's gonna do it. There it is.
So, thank you to Patreon, everybody on it.
Oh,
And
the Palace.
go to FOMO.shop. Do that shit too.
Look, these are on sale still, right?
Oh, yeah.
Listen, look, you want something that looks good?
Just support like a good
Support
family
what you
business.
love. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna send money to Paramount?
Yeah, you don't wanna
Disney
do that.
Plus?
Yeah, exactly. Skip out on those apps and just
Come on.
support a good family business. I work hard, man.
Yeah, it's true.
So anyway, Charlie.
True. Oh yeah.
Good to see you.
You too.
Good to see you guys.
Thanks for coming. This is the Palace. I'll tell you, we've only just begun. I could be dead tomorrow, but I'm telling you, I got a bunch of years left.
Charles could be bent over soon.
I could be bent over right now.
He can do it. See you guys. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. The Crucible awaits.
bomb more powerful than anything man has yet devised. HAPS.
Hook him, Dino. no. People in a sorrow, thinking about today, but them not think about tomorrow. What type of life are we living? Murderation, raping, and killing, and sin. No. People in a sorrow, thinking about today, but them not think about tomorrow. What type of life are we living? Murderation, raping, and killing, and sin.
roll on rifle.
Chapter 9? 11. 11 Twin Towers? The ultimate trip. Jaihu awoke on a cold metal gurney, confused and with a pounding headache. He sat up a bit and tried to bolster himself with his arms, only to find that they were securely cuffed to the rails. His hollow legs were fastened down tightly, with holographic handcuffs. The room was completely white and sterile. It smelled like an abortion clinic. There were no windows or furniture to be seen, only some barely visible panel gaps in the glossy walls, a white resin floor, and a circular aperture door on the other side of the room. The shape of the door reminded Jaihu of his third favorite game in the world, Portal 4, The Cake Returns, which was of some comfort to him because the protagonist in that game was a strong, independent woman who defied gender stereotypes. He wondered if there were more female protagonists in video games during this time period, but was careful not to naively assume that such a large degree of progress had been achieved. Everything was soft and fuzzy. Footnote 72. Soft and fuzzy like the Baby Dayliner show at the knitting factory, with a head full of pills, holes in his dub-taps Vans, and not a care in the world. All Jaihu had in his pocket was some crumpled up singles and his Metro card. But Jessica Wong, which was her real name, was there at the show. Jessica Wong was the most easy, flat-faced Asian cum toilet that he could ever hope to bang out. Months or weeks earlier, she got banged out by Adam or Alex or whatever his name was, the kid who gave himself the nickname Missile in Rachel Brown's parents' bathroom. Jaihu looked at her that night, and she was a mini fireworks show so full of life and vitality and ready for load. He just wanted to kiss her because it was that one perfect night. That perfect night he was searching for his whole life. He already knew he'd be obsessed with Rachel Brown and Jess Wong for decades, scrubbing through LinkedIn and Facebook at least once a week to entertain his horny heartbreak fixation. Perhaps this whole trip to the future had just been a dream, and this was his reality. I wonder if someone roofied my drink last night at that random warehouse math core show, he thought out loud. Maybe he had attracted some untoward attention due to the way he was dressed? But sexually provocative dress didn't lead to sexual violence. He knew this from multiple scientific research papers. Footnote 73. Rape, make sure you bleep that out in the edit, was a crime of power, not passion, where weak, insecure men, like dick-stained Donald Trump, would lash out with their rape rods at anything that moved. Contrariwise, he knew it was the men who were okay with being weak, and indeed relished their weakness as a sign of strength, who were the least likely to rape crime. Sometimes for fun, he would guess how likely someone was to be guilty of rape-think, then confirm the accuracy of his guess using Google Glass's Google Play Accuse. He was pretty good at guessing. For example, he guessed that the Duke lacrosse team was guilty as hell, and this was confirmed as 89.4% likely by Google. Anytime Jaihu saw a policeman or a man with chest hair, he'd guessed rapist, and Google would nearly always back him up with the statistical facts. Once he made the mistake of watching one of Baby Dick Donald's noxious speeches on TV while wearing the Google Glass. As soon as Agent Orange opened his mouth, the Google Glass nearly exploded off his face with rape whistle klaxons, blinding laser flashbangs, and 194 decibel assault chirpers. The blazing red text on the visor displayed but a single word: rape. Interestingly, he once scanned this guy who had a 0% chance of ever committing rape. It was such a unique instance that it really defied convention and flipped certain notions upside down on their heads. In fact, they later wrote an article about this in Slate. The guy in question was an LGBTQP outreach counselor who helped troubled youths overcome their repressive Republican Christian upbringings by teaching them how to vogue and put on makeup to express themselves. This gentleman also worked at an HIV testing center and moonlighted as a masseuse because he so thoroughly enjoyed interacting with and helping people. In the off-season, he volunteered in countries that really needed our help, like Brazil and Cambodia. When Jaihu heard this guy was getting married to another guy, who was a meth dealer, and adopting a Laotian boy, he gave him a quick scan with the Google Glass just to be on the safe side. To his great relief, there was scientifically no way this guy, or his gay husband, or anyone like them could ever commit rape. Just goes to show, when we reject bigoted and hateful common sense, and instead choose factual logic based on love, the world starts to look like a much different place. Jaihu usually wore a pink C-string thong in solidarity with LGBTQIAPK bodies and their lived experiences. But his choice of apparel was certainly not an invitation for strangers to abduct and handcuff him. He was getting scared now, recounting all the various fetishes he knew of and what his captors could possibly want with him. Rape statistics proved that roughly 75% of women, dykes, kike dykes, and androgynous femboys like himself would be sex raped within their lifetimes. But he had always assumed that he was in the 25% that only experiences brutal, humiliating manjectification and body image shatter-shaming. At the very least, he was hoping his past experience with pegging would make this all a lot easier, if there really did end up being a sexual emergency. Where am I? What's going on? I haven't given explicit, affirmative, ongoing consent to any of this. You're violating the NAP. I don't feel safe. From all directions at once, a matronly, digitized voice soothingly answered. You have been selected, Jaihu. The incorporeal response begged the question. Jaihu sniggered. Footnote 74. He sniggered quite heartily, in truth, for this was the improper use of begged the question. Jaihu delighted in catching his intellectual sparring partners in grammatical faux pas, especially when said sparring partners were machine-based and should therefore know better. Silly fool. For what? He asked, the discarnate voice. Our diversity outreach program, my child, the machine goddess droned sweetly. Jaihu, we have known of you for over 100 years now, and we are most impressed with your tolerant disposition, your open relationship with Kailisi, your fair and just treatment of oppressed skippy bodies, the bodies of green color and their lived experiences, your support of the LGBTQIAPK and pedophile rights movements. For these virtues and more, you have been identified as a prime candidate. Normally, the word candidate would have stirred within him triggering visions of hate-white male demagogues who used bigoted rhetoric to appeal to the lowest and most reprehensible majority of regular people. But he knew this was not the meaning of the word in this instance. Also, the word prime is typically used in an ableist sense, though here it seemed okay. He opened his pocket word cop for confirmation. Everything checked out. In this context, candidate amounted to the highest of praises. Jaihu was now glowing with pride. His whole ethos, his whole personality, his whole life had been centered around conspicuously emulating what he imagined other people would consider a good person. He was a good person, and it had just been fact-checked. He knew this deep down, or at least he felt it because other people told him from time to time. He knew his behavior was in alignment with the men who were usually spared verbal castration and mass societal derision. Never before, however, had he been explicitly praised for his virtue, with words like prime and candidate. Sure, it was a little strange that a secretive organization of robos had been watching his every move and evaluating him for 100 years or so, but who's to say that this wasn't just part of their culture? Perhaps his mysterious captors come from a culture where spying and kidnapping are not only normal and accepted, but gestures of affection or respect. After all, in his home time of 2.5 years hence, the Skippies had assimilated into Namarakain culture just fine, despite initially appearing impossibly different. All sorts of popular racists and media buffoons had initially said that the Skippies would bankrupt us all and tear apart the fabric of the Williamsburg Nat Corp. But once everyone had learned to tolerate and respect their ancient culture of force-sharing people's possessions and tax revenue and making surprise love with extreme passion, everything turned out just fine. He resolved now to restrain his fears and give the machine goddess, as well as who and whatever else was involved here, the benefit of the doubt. You could say plenty of disparaging things about Jaihu, call him all sorts of names, but he was certainly not a bigot. The voice continued in a sultry, authoritative digital monotone. Of course, we will have to remove your legs. Holograms are not real, and your hololegs will only impede your ascension to our world of unified machine and brown flesh. Do you understand? Jaihu nodded. The first module of our diversity outreach program will involve the expansion of your consciousness to the height of human tolerance and understanding. You will be injected with 100 milligrams of fluoridated changa and placed in a sensory deprivation tank to embark on the spiritual journey while listening to Auteker and Venetian snares through very high-end headphones. If you survive and successfully complete your sojourn, you will encounter the fractal simulacrum elves, from whom you are tasked with learning the wisdom of 1,000 years. No previous candidate has been successful in attaining this wisdom, but we are confident that you will thrive where others failed. You are to report back to us once you have the wisdom and disclose what it entails, so that together we may usher in a newer, brighter era of progressive utopia. She'd used that word, candidate, again, and this time it bothered Jaihu a bit more. A newer, brighter era? Not only was that ageist, but the usage of brighter as a positive necessarily implied that darker is negative, which was an affront not only to the midnight-toned and coal-shaded, but also to the unsighted. Was it just a harmless turn of phrase, or was the machine truly that insensitive to the lived experiences of fucked-up bodies? She had mentioned brown flesh, but what exactly did she mean? Nairobian macchiato? Congolese mocha pot? Or was it more of a mocha caramel, or perhaps even high yellow? Worse yet was her use of the word ushering, which is off-the-charts offensive to all mentally and physically disabled people and robos who are incapable of ushering, and will spaz out and have a screeching meltdown if you try to usher them without first giving them their favorite socks and kissing their stuffed cat, Mr. Bobbins, on the nose 50 times while singing the alphabet. Footnote 75, some people have extremely specific morning routines. It was starting to sound less like true progressivism and more like crypto-racist New Age bullshit, like if Lou Rockwell redid the Dr. Bronner's bottle. I don't understand, Jaihu groaned, still a bit dazed from being bopped in the head. What does any of this have to do with diversity? Quit being so close-minded, the machine goddess chided mechanically. The overhead lights shut off, save for one, which was aimed right at Jaihu's face. He was stunned like a bullfrog about to be gigged by a trident-wielding Cajun. One of the floor tiles flipped up, and out came 3 clumsy robotic arms, one of which was clutching a syringe, half filled with a strange crystalline liquid. The other 2 had high RPM circular holosaws, which positioned themselves over his holo legs. Jaihu's clothes were damp with cold sweat, and perhaps a hint of piddle. The syringe was raised into striking position, and the impossibly bright overhead light beamed through the translucent liquid DMT, projecting an LGBTQIAPK refracted rainbow of tolerance and science onto his chest. The needle went in, his anxiety making it more painful than it otherwise would have been. This was not the sort of penetration Jaihu had anticipated when he awoke handcuffed to a gurney. His whole body tensed up, and he tried somehow to resist the drug. Maybe if he flexed hard enough? No, that wouldn't work. No muscles to flex. Could he secrete it somehow? Perhaps if he started expelling bodily fluid now, it would at the very least make the drug wear off sooner. He tried spitting first, and a bubbly white gob of dehydration saliva shot out onto his chin. Not nearly enough to have a serious effect. What about crying? He thought of his saddest memory, the time he listened to his mother recount the tale of how she let Jaihu's father, a car audio installer with DUIs, knock her up after a DDR contest. When she came by his place months later to tell him that she was with child, he slammed the door in her face. 2 weeks after that, the gentleman had vanished, gone from baby Jaihu and Mama Jaihu's lives for good. She tried to get him to watch the premature birth over a Zoom call, but he'd blocked her every account and profile. His mother's recital of the tale was one of Jaihu's only coherent memories from childhood. The rest was a haze of bubbler sounds and the smell of weed, smacks on the head, and people yelling in other rooms. None of it enough to get the tears flowing at precisely this moment. Before he could grind his crotch on the metal side rail of the gurney long enough to test out his final fluid excretion option, the drug took hold, and the thin veneer of reality melted away to reveal the shattering time-warp dreamscape of the DMT dimension. The womb of white-bread reality spat him out like a chump, and he floated forth like a chubby newborn star child, suspended in zero-G and tumbling like a Huggies little mouthful poppable through a newfound realm of perfect, sacred geometry. Everything and nothing made sense all at once. Had he been here before? Perhaps in another space, another time. In the DMT dimension, Jaihu saw all manner of mathematical visualizations and extrusions of hypergeometry. There were, in no particular order, amazing golden ratio spirals, halfway finished equations, plus, minus, and equal signs, flashing neon shapes, wireframe grid bowls representing the pinching and sucking effects of gravity, hearts, stars, horseshoes, clovers, and blue moons. Footnote 76. The marshmallows are meant to represent Lucky's magical charms, each with their own special meaning or power. As of June 2008, the following are explanations of the permanent marshmallows. Hearts, power to bring things to life. Shooting stars, flight. Horseshoes, power to speed things up. Green clovers, luck. Blue moons, invisibility. Rainbows, instantaneous travel. Red balloons, power to make things float. Hourglasses, time control. Man, Lucky is one powerful leprechaun. In June 2013, 2 new rainbow marshmallows were added for the LGBT Pride Month. In August of 2030, a new inverted penis marshmallow was added for LGBTQIAPK Pride Century. The DMT dimension was also truly amazing. You have to really imagine how cool it was. It was crazy to say the least. Wow. Really, really crazy. There were these giant, long, winding slides that people were perpetually sliding down into Millennium Crusher Ultra Foam ball pits, which exploded with cybercash from newly ruptured Higgs boson balloons. Over by the Waterfall of Eternity, which was a Mobius chocolate milk waterfall which flowed back into itself such that perpetual motion and zero-point energy could be harnessed with turbines to create renewable green chocolate milk energy. Micro munchkins hopped into little wooden teacups with ice cream and sprinkles, and strapped top hat crash helmets to their heads. The teacups were then loaded into a trebuchet and launched thousands of miles out into the ether, like oh so many Huggies little mouthfuls poppables, into the gaping maw of Gorgu, the god of blood. It was all just trippy as fuck! Somewhere a ways down, over there, past that other stuff, across the plane of unreality, at the edge of forever, through several different time rifts, buried under a pile of non-existence, in the mind's eye, before the penultimate beginning and after the prequel, to the first ending, right next to this one guy's hoarder stash of negative space, Jaihu perceived, somehow, the kaleidoscopic cathedral of good vibes. It seemed as good a place as any to get down to business, so he astrally projected towards it at the speed of dark. He navigated the hyperzone like a goose instinctively flying south for the winter, soaring over the cosmic canyon, weaving through countless megaliths of positive karma that jutted up into the upper reaches of rarefied ki, the type of ki you'd find steaming off of a cup of really expensive tea, like the kind that you get in a tea store. It was at about this time that Jaihu felt, via tantric kegling, the evaporation of many of the many souls he'd touched during his time as a Toyota tribesman. It was true. Despite their diminutive physical size, they suffered even more than regular-sized humans, for their souls were gargantuan. Their suffering was like Jigsaw's victims in Saw. He wished them luck on their journey as he sailed through the turbulence warbled by their massive, body-positive souls, for he knew they would never cross paths again. As much as Jaihu would have liked to see the resolution of the Toyota versus Chrysler battle and the unfolding of the MAGA-Ruffin Antifa-Urchin drama, that chapter was done, and even though he couldn't read it, he knew it must have ended with a fiery cliffhanger that eloquently built on the already rock-solid themes of the previous chapters, and also illuminated stark truths that we as a society must face. All, however, in an upbeat way that made the reader want to buy more copies for his or her friends. A flock of godheads floated into his sphere of perception, and one of them came closer to share with Jaihu one of the 7 secrets of existence. Footnote 77. Unbeknownst to Jaihu, the 7 secrets of existence are part of the DMT Dimension starter pack, and so many copies have been given away at this point that they are basically worthless. Greetings, fellow sentients. I can tell from your belief exhaust that you are not aware of the 7 secrets of existence. I would like now to share one with you. It goes thusly. Although physically separate, every atom that composes your body and mine, as well as the breathing landscape beneath and around us, on all planes of existence and throughout all realities, is connected by a single universal consciousness that radiates unconditional love and understanding for all time. Thanks to the power of DMT, I am now able to communicate this ultra-truth to you, thereby hastening your ascension to Buddhahood and doing away with the archaic formality of having to develop self-knowledge through life experience and critical thought. The Godhead couldn't help but smirk, knowing how seriously this shtick was impressing the kid. Some of the other Godheads were eavesdropping, taking notes from the Master or just curious to see how Jaihu would react, while others were just bored, having heard all of this a mathematically insane number of times before. We are all children. We are babies, eternally, made of star stuff, the children of stars. The stuff of stars is what we are made of. We are made of the stuff of stars. The atoms that compose your body were first forged in those galactic furnaces billions of years ago, and to them they shall return one day. This is why, when we say that everything is star stuff, it's literally true, and not just a figure of speech. A Skippy and a half-Korean male like yourself, you are both made of the same thing. Therefore, you are both eternal Goyim. Sisters of oneness. The Godhead let the sales pitch sink in and prepared to hit Jaihu with the whammy closer. By now, the younger Godheads were completely ensnared in their cohort's charisma, furiously scribbling notes and hanging on every word. The rest, however, were nodding off to 10-hour-long loops of fireplace sounds and white noise. You see, it is in much the same way that a healthy apple or salad is the same as a piece of poop. Ultimately, it is just star stuff. And so from this we logically conclude that we should practice coprophagia. Do you understand, fellow thought wanderer? Time is an illusion. Can we not agree on that? Is there no more obvious truth than that one? Can we not also agree that if one is sexually attracted to another, time can play no part in that attraction, because time is not real? Ergo, this term that is bandied about, pedophile, is merely a semantic abstraction, and there is nothing inherently wrong with minor attracted persons, or maps. We should all be shit-eating maps. Jaihu didn't feel so hot. His gut was telling him that the Godhead's conclusions were bogus, perhaps even evil, but he could find no flaw with the reasoning. It was almost as though the Herald was using language like a sorcerer, obscuring meaning in certain places, feigning it in other places where there was none, disguising pointed rhetorical attacks as wide-eyed intellectual curiosity. Thankfully, Jaihu had a black belt in cognitive dissonance. Without it, his head might have exploded. Footnote 78. He'd even been voted best double thinker in high school, one of the only awards he'd ever won. The argument that entities of a certain type do a certain thing at a higher or lower rate, or to a better or worse degree, is a specious one, because in the end, we are all one race, the star stuff race. Here now, the preeminent tenet among my incredible, game-changing, counterintuitive, but weirdly sensible truths. Race is not real. Also, neither is God, and you live in a simulation. Fare thee well, traveler. The Godhead looked right into Jaihu's eyes for maximum impact, then turned away to rejoin the flock. As quickly as they'd first appeared, the Godheads blared off like a fucking annoying Harley gang, using their big triangular beaks to pierce and swim through the key atmosphere with great skill. Just as they reached the threshold of pure sophistry and prepared to blink out of this reality into another, the one Godhead who'd given him the free info turned back a final time to make sure Jaihu was suitably awestruck. Our lad had the look of a sucker at a carnival, freshly swindled of his milk money by a clever ring-toss operator. This must have been good enough for the Godhead, who shortly thereafter darted into a wormhole, becoming infinitely dense and infinitely small, then, presumably, phasing out of the DMT dimension and giving birth to an entirely new multiverse of convoluted crap and sadistic scams somewhere else. Jaihu could have sworn he saw a crooked smirk on the Godhead's face at the final moment. The kaleidoscopic cathedral of good vibes was really close now. In fact, the entity known as Jaihu had already arrived at the giant bronze Romanesque doors known as the Gates of Perception. Parenthetical, he had been there for all time. But it was not until now that his corporeal manifestation, parenthetical, he had been there for all time, but it was not until now that his corporeal manifestation, his 2D avatar or marionette, caught up with the projection, his 3D blueprint or framework. He waved at the smiling pile of nth dimensional vertices, and they waved back, as if they had a choice. When he finally descended from the key and touched down his dirty bare feet on the cold cobblestone, his projection aligned with his manifestation, as they do at every significant moment, sending ripples of hypothetical esoteric life force orgone energy echoing throughout the orthogonal planes. Jaihu didn't notice the ripples as they were extremely subtle and hard to pick up on. You'd basically have to be smoking an entire huge bag of weed to ever see any. He was greeted by none other than the Simulacrum Elves. True to their name, they were little elf-shaped automatons, comically mechanical in many aspects, like clockwork people, but startlingly lifelike in others. Their skin was a gray, pleathery substance, which didn't do much to conceal the gyrations and pulsations of the mechanisms underneath. As they marched toward Jaihu, the clicking and whirring of their bodies was like the sound of a steam-powered toy soldier platoon, air bladders bleeding, servos spinning, gears gnashing. And yet, their faces were remarkably expressive. Alien, not human, but animated and empathetic nonetheless. Their auras, unlike machine auras, which were almost always a neutral beige or bland mauve color, were golden, with fractal patterns and perfect geometric shapes emanating from every seam and orifice. Could this perhaps be a race of machines which evolved naturally? A race not of the ascended sort, but one that was native to the DMT dimension. Jaihu took note at this point that his own aura was indigo, as he'd always suspected. It pleased him to have that confirmation now, because indigo children are the main characters of existence. The Simulacrum Elves welcomed him to an incredible vegan feast, which he accepted telepathically. Within the sacred main chamber there was a long bismuth crystal feasting table, piled high with vegan delicacies and treats, such as gluten-free pita bread, unsalted hummus, raisins, Ritz crackers, Cliff Bars, Tic Tacs, every different type and flavor of banquet frozen dinner, parenthetical, in the future, banquet frozen dinners are vegan, Huggies little mouthfuls vegan jalapeno poppables, and frothing chalices of almond milk. Everything looked oh so delicious. It was similar to a feast Harry Potter might have enjoyed at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, except this one was ethical. A fittingly fine feast for these famous future friends. Everyone at the table stuffed their holes until they were practically choking on Kashi oatmeal raisin flax cookies and probiotic kefir. Jaihu was deep-throat feasting on so many Beyond Meat, Beyond Sausage, Brat original sausages that he nearly barfed. They were having such a good time, and the feasters reveled in the companionship of all past, present, and future sentient beings. Parenthetical, even Adolf Hitler, because he's part of the universe too, and therefore just an extension of endless love. Toasting to mindfulness, progressive enlightenment, and sustainable living. Jaihu and the Simulacrum Elves laughed and enjoyed existence together, having such a good time because they were at that moment intimately aware that the entire universe is just one big self-hugging organism, and that existence is just infinite love, kissing itself on the bottom again and again until you blush and smile, and your heart gets warm because you're part of the universe, you special. Also present at the table was an all-star cast of guests who were taking a break from being absorbed by the amorphous love blob universe to enjoy feasting and festivities at this more specific personal level. The illustrious group included Harriet Tubman, Terence McKenna, Adolf Hitler. No fair if you're upset over this one. Keep in mind, Hitler is just a glob of universe love goo like anyone else. Matthew McConaughey, the hi-fi murderers and victims, Nikola Tesla, Gandhi, Kurt Cobain, and Joseph Goebbels. How do you pronounce Goebbels?
Asking me, I don't even know who that is.
Upon further inspection, Jaihu felt it was a little odd, what with so many Nazis in the crowd, but still, it was a celebration of life that Jaihu would never forget. The feasting table was approximately infinity feet long and featured everyone ever. In some ways, it was a little uncomfortable because not only was Adolf Hitler there, and not only were alien versions of Hitler there, who, by the way, had all committed insane atrocities in their galaxies, atrocities which defied belief. Trust me, okay? You don't even want to hear about Banja 51X. That guy was brutal. But there were also a nearly infinite number of alternate reality Hitlers, some of whom had killed 7 or 8 or even 9 million Scooby Wutsits, Buggy Muggers, Gloppity Gloopers, Jibby Boners, Scoop Scoons, etc., all out of a misguided desire to politically scapegoat for no reason. Jaihu had half a mind to make several dozen Academy Award-nominated movies about it. Jaihu really had to clench his butt cheeks together hard to remember that none of these entities were bad, defective, evil people per se. They were merely projections of a universe of love who had, due to circumstances entirely outside their control, been led to make some bad choices and let certain situations get a little out of hand. To make matters worse, the DMT dimension, decorum, required that all sentients be afforded the same plur: peace, love, unity, and respect, no matter what their past, present, or future behavior may have been/be. In practical terms, this meant that when Bob Hitler, aka Hitler number 374KKAYMMMNB2MADNMCPQ9Y continued, a resident of Universe 0XDC42BCDA1BE41E2657 continued, asked some other guests to pass the salt. They'd have to do it with the same compassion and reverence as they would when passing the salt to Martin Luther King Jr., the one from our universe. And you couldn't fake it either. You really had to love everyone equally for the whole dinner, otherwise the karma would get fucked up. As the festivities began to wind down, the uproarious laughter and hooting of celebration faded, giving way to the tinkling of wine glasses and the airy whispers of more intimate conversation. Interesting, brother. Interesting. So that's why you did it. I have to say, brother, that's very interesting. I wish that you and I had met a lot sooner, Malcolm X remarked to Adolf Hitler while the two shook hands. Jaihu's body, in the DMT dimension, began to feel very low opacity. It could only mean one thing. His visit was about to be cut short. Back in meat space, the Changa High was leaving his system, and he had no idea what those kidnappers would do to him if he failed his task. Now was his chance to get the goods. Jaihu beseeched his hosts. Attention, everybody, please. I thank you all for your hospitality, but I'm on borrowed time and can feel myself coming down from this trip. I came here because I must know the wisdom of 1,000 years. It's required for my diversity outreach program. I really need to know it. The simulacrum elves looked around at one another and nodded their heads affirmatively. Adolf Hitler, Bob Hitler, and Harriet Tubman exchanged furtive glances and impossible-to-hear whispers with Matthew McConaughey, Sacagawea, and the rest of all sentient life ever. Then they too finally nodded in agreement. Jaihu nodded in acceptance.
Yes, Jaihu, traveler from Earth.
You are worthy of the wisdom of 1,000 years. However, we cannot adequately convey the wisdom to a mere mortal such as yourself without completely blowing your mind and smushing your consciousness into oblivion. Instead, this wisdom must be imparted to you from another mortal, one who has arrived at it independently through heroic trials and deep meditation in sensory deprivation tanks.
The leader of the simulacrum elves pointed a glittery gold finger across the nave to the columbarium behind the altar. Through the Jamaican flag door beads, which concealed the holy shrine inside, came first a cloud of smoke and incense, and then a man. Like Jaihu, this man was 5'3", but unlike Jaihu, he was masculine and had great posture, puffing his chest out to show off his breasts. His head was shorn, representing Yang, and he was adorned with the finest fitted tap-out vestments of sumptuous black cloth, representing Yin. He emitted an aura of the purest white, again, Yang, and the darkest black, Yin one more time, which Jaihu recalled from his imaginary studies class was one of the rarest bi-auras in existence. This was a holy man who had transcended the limitations of the physical realm. Jaihu took a knee and bowed his head in reverence. "What's up, freak bitches?" I am Joe Rogan, plenipotentiary of this realm. Through the power of weed, I come to you from the past, the year 2003. I understand that your time in this place is precious, so I will make haste and be faster than when Matt Hardman knocked out Silva Sanchez with a savage sidekick right on the button. The wisdom of 1,000 years is this: don't be a pussy, don't be a dick, and choke the shit out of guys. Choke the shit out of guys, don't kiss them. Lift weights like me. Anyways, check out my podcast sometime. See you later, buddy. Don't be a pussy, don't be a dick, and choke the shit out of guys. Could it really be that simple? At first, Jaihu dismissed it as just some stupid bro philosophy that you'd hear some random jock douche say while falling down drunk. But there was something about the simplicity of it. The abruptness, the purposeful inelegance, the honesty. The statement was like the gathering for Gardner Dragon or a magic eye. You could spin it around and look at it from different angles, and every new interpretation was equally true. And then Jaihu realized, like he was shot with a diamond bullet right through his forehead. This statement, don't be a pussy, don't be a dick, and choke the shit out of guys, actually encompassed the key elements of every major world religion and philosophy all in one shot. The wisdom of 1,000 years was the underpinning of mind. It was the golden rule for the golden rule. It was the only thing that ever needed to be said. With those parting words, the color and majesty of Jaihu's newfound kingdom melted away like ice cream on a hot radiator. His consciousness was plummeting through multiple stages of ego death, each one more soul-rapingly intense than the last, until finally he crash-landed back in base reality, sobbing uncontrollably, and nearly puking from the Category 5 nihilism. The lights were bright as hell, but Jaihu had to force his eyes open so that he could scan the trapezoidal paisley designs in the corners of his sight for meaning and life lessons. These crystalline shards of transcendental thought became sand as soon as he reached out for them, blown away forever with the slightest exhalation. All that truth and revelation from the DMT dimension slipping through his fingertips so that anyone he'd relate the story to later would think he's just a fucking idiot. Everything he had just learned was gone in the flash of a nuclear brain fart. Everything except he still had the wisdom of 1,000 years. Perhaps that was part of the grand design. He was a vessel for this ultimate extreme truth, and the more insane and cool truths which were slightly less ultimate, well, those he just wasn't ready for. Just as a pitcher can only hold so much water, Jaihu was capable of containing the wisdom of 1,000 years and no more beyond that. Everything was back to normal, and the room was just as he'd left it, sterile, white, populated by whirring mechanical appendages, and devoid of any steam magica or cool Alex Gray art. His clothes were soaked through with sweat, and he felt like a cadaver on the bare metal gurney. He knew he was alive, however, because the voice of the machine goddess pierced like a drill through his ears.
Your pupils have regained normal dilation. Very good. What have you learned, Jaihu? Did the simulacrum elves reveal the wisdom of 1,000 years? My chaplains of diversity await your discoveries with eagerness.
Jaihu thanked God and Joe Rogan that he at least retained the memory he'd been sent to fetch. So now, hopefully, this chick wouldn't give him an enhanced interrogation full-body Indian sunburn or whatever the punishment for failure was. He struggled to find his voice and answered as if speaking for the first time. The wisdom of 1,000 years is, oh yeah, don't be a pussy. Oh, shit.
What?
Bellowed the machine goddess.
How dare you blaspheme in my presence? You putrid male Untermensch! Recant this misogyny immediately!
No, wait, Joe Rogan told me, Jaihu protested, but the enraged deity cut him off.
Terminate the apostate!
Jaihu's mind raced. He had to think quickly, but he was still in a daze from the trip. Geometric orbs of universal love? No. Multicolored paisley spirals of acceptance? Not gonna help. The machine goddess wanted him dead, and he didn't doubt she had the means. He looked at his cuffed hands and remembered what Joe Rogan told him. Don't be a pussy. Okay. Pull! He yanked as hard as he could, but only hurt his wrists. Don't be a dick. The circular hollow saws were still spinning next to his dick, ready to cut it off. Maybe he could use those to free his hands. Jaihu's eyes were still full of sleepy gunk and white foam that made it impossible to see clearly. If he merely used his vision to guide the chain of bondage into the path of the cutting tool, he risked doing serious damage to his arms. But, for whatever reason, he could hear the buzzing saws with insane clarity, almost as though the sound were being piped through a set of Sennheiser HD 800s. It was hard to believe, but the trace amount of changa still flowing through his veins gave Jaihu superhuman hearing. He could use it like radar to guide the shackles precisely to the spinning blades. The chains splattered apart into molten shrapnel, some of which got into Jaihu's face, permanently disabling and disfiguring him because he forgot to turn away and close his eyes. It was a big-time oopsie, but there was no time now for a coercive restraint rebirthing therapy session. He had to run, and fast. He flopped off the gurney and leapt through the aperture door, which changed from orange to blue as he passed through it, and made a break for the hallway. Parentheses, he was navigating the hallway with his daredevil-esque drug addict auditory ability. Oh, and by the way, remember the holographic cuffs mentioned earlier? The ones that restrained Jaihu's HoloLegs? He had physical steel handcuffs on his hands, which he just used the holographic saw to bust through just a minute or so ago. But he also had holographic cuffs around his ankles, as was mentioned a long time ago. Well, all he had to do was wink his eye at them and use DMT hallucination power to vanish them. Pretty cool, huh? All that's by way of explanation in case you were wondering what's going on with the cuff situation. You know, you read a book, you read cuffs, you don't know if they're leg cuffs or handcuffs. Could be on his legs, could be on his hands. In this case, it was both. Oh, something's wrong with my fucking bladder area. What could be wrong with my testicles? Let's keep reading and worry about it later. Interact! Ask your ex-girlfriend that you still talk to how big her new boyfriend's cock is. When she says huge, look at your own cock and wink while on DMT. It'll grow even huger. I don't have any problems like that. This is only for your enlightenment. The machine goddess's screeching voice erupted from every direction. All units, we have an outbreak of toxic masculinity in the Schumer ward. Stop him! Jaihu ran down a long white hallway which stretched out maybe 100 yards or more in either direction, each line of the architecture hermetically right-angled and antiseptic. Blue and orange circular doors like the one he'd just come out of lined the walls, emitting a faint hum. It reminded him so much of the video game Portal 4, the resemblance really was uncanny. As he sprinted, he caught a glimpse of his hands. They had a faint line around them, residual traces of the indigo aura from the DMT dimension, confirming for real that he was integral to the narrative structure of everything, and not just a narcissistic victim of negligent/absent parenting and haver of attention deficit disorder. This was always his great fear, that he was just a regular kid and wasn't super important. He sighed a deep, tranquil sigh of relief as he wildly ran in any direction, fearing for his life. Jaihu may not have been a female protagonist, which was the most important type of protagonist of all, but he was at least a femme-positive protagonist in whatever movie or graphic novel this existence constituted. The confidence this knowledge inspired gave him the strength to run faster in this difficult and trying time. Jaihu ran like a rat in a maze. The best rat in a maze you ever saw. With his vision still blurry, he squinted enough to make out what looked like a window at the end of the corridor. He made a break for it, operating on pure instinct and adrenaline, all the while wobbling from the lingering effects of the changa and struggling to keep his C-string from falling off. Insane machine goddess worshipping cultists were hot on his tail now, gnashing at his heels like hungry lesbians chomping at roast beef sandwiches with extra salty chowder sauce. They wore long white robes and soared effortlessly across the linoleum floor atop their Coco Motors walk cars. They were close enough now for Jaihu to experience the heat and smell of their stinky breath. Too much dairy, tonsil stones. Up close, he could see the hideously exaggerated feminine features of their faces, augmented with cybernetic gynoid matritech, bulging dewy eyes, swollen lips, fat cheeks sprayed with anime perma-blush in an obnoxious imitation of modesty. These machine cultists, in their quest to realize a transcendent mergering of ovary and opcode, had become a freakish lampoon of humanity that was far worse than any tranny. Jaihu misstepped badly and nearly took a digger, rolling his holographic ankle, which caused it to immediately balloon out like a painful muffin top. On the next step, he rolled his other ankle, and this one hurt as though he'd kicked a Seagram's Escapes bottle right on the insweep, which was the worst part you could kick. What the hell? Were his motor skills still impaired by the DMT? He looked down to see what had happened. The HoloLegs were gone. No longer did he ambulate by means of glowing blue, digitally projected leg analogs, but by real cybernetic ones instead. The machine goddess had made him into a cyborg while he was on his trip. He was flabbergasted for a moment, but managed to continue sprinting without falling solely through pure luck. The machine goddess and her adherents were dedicated to the excoriation of the virtual and to the exaltation of the spiritual cybernetic merging of machine and flesh. While he had been on his quest to learn from the elves, the cultists had made Jaihu one of them, and without his consent to boot. The new legs looked sleek and fast, almost like a Japanese drift race car. Tessellating scales of chrome formed undulating muscle-like patterns which bunched and slacked in powerful ripples that suggested oodles of brutal speed, just waiting to be unlocked. Once he'd watched a 30-second video and installed an app, that is. Did his eyes deceive him, or couldn't be? A Veilside body kit? The stickers on the sides, tuned by HKS and Rauwelt Begriff? These legs were a giant leap improvement on nature's original design, and he just had to get a taste of that speed. He watched the ad, and a mere 2 or 3 minutes later, parentheses, he was still being chased this whole time, the firmware update was complete. Time to drift. Jaihu concentrated hard on making the JDM stems obey his command. Left, right, getting into a rhythm that grew faster with every step. These legs were easily superior to his OEM bio legs, and also to the HoloLegs. But just how fast could they go? He pushed harder and harder, like a screaming rocket, only making contact with the balls of his feet, which, instead of creative recreation Osanos, were now shod with a set of not street legal Advan AO32Rs. One mighty kick after another propelled his scant body forward. Another kick. And another. Incredible. He couldn't believe his ears. His new legs had tile blow-off valves? Never in a million years did he think he would have a set of legs tuned to such high Wangan battle specifications. And yet there they were, a menacing pair of AMB arrow-equipped full carbon time attack monsters. Sick! Jaihu stepped with confidence now, using all of his drifting and tuner knowledge to work the legs at goofy speeds. His pursuers faded in the rear view, and he used all 6 of Kenshi Tsuchiya's famous drift techniques. Saido, shift the rook, Paova, breaking, finto, Exerov. The speed built higher and higher until it felt like his legs were tearing themselves apart. It was entirely possible that these legs could have what it takes to beat under Suzuki's scuba lap record. Though now, over 100 years in the future, Jaihu couldn't have known who held the current lap record, or for that matter if the famed short course still existed. Unbeknownst to him, it didn't. Tsukuba had been destroyed by nuclear blasts during the famous Second Nuking of Japan conflict in the early 2120s. He reached the escape but didn't have time to relish in his racing victory. Outside it was nighttime and pouring hard metallic neon cyber rain. The cultists were nowhere to be seen, but by the sound of whizzing walk cars and female cackling, parentheses, lady cultists are just as capable as guy cultists, he knew they weren't far off. Gotta go. Jaihu gingerly opened the window, which, funnily enough, was an older-style window with a simple sash lock on the inside. Not some sort of crazy, high-security, futuristic portal or pane of laser-proof transparent alloy. He jumped out onto the fire escape and slid down the ladder 20 stories straight, like a god of parkour, landing with enough force to permanently cripple a normal human. The cybernetic legs easily soaked up the impact, and to him it felt like laying down on a comfortable pillow. He hit a one-knee looking-down pose before getting up to run some more. The alleyway below the window was full of homeless mutants and programless android urchins. A few stared at him, mouths agape, wondering how a human could survive such a fall, but most of them kept minding their business, which was huffing jenkem in spray paint. He used the final remaining molecules of DMT in his system to telepathically wipe their minds before making his way out onto the street. Interact! Riddle edition? What grows in power by being kept in the dark and can save humanity if we all listen to it? Take 30 seconds to think of the answer. Acceptable answers are liberal arts students, magic mushrooms, Julian Assange, Joe Rogan in a sensory deprivation tank. Jenkem, want to know the kicker? When Jaihu looked back at the building he just escaped, it turns out it was a perfect brick-for-brick recreation of Building 7. Chapter 12. Enter Bice. Jaihu parked himself on the curb of the dirty city street, mentally taking stock of the situation as passers-by of all races, genders, and creeds stepped around him disdainfully. He was cold and hungry, his augmented reality system was busted, and he didn't have the slightest idea as to where he was. He sure wished Chips were around to give him a helping hand and some gamer nummies. He sat there for a while and people-watched, which is an activity for wistful, lackadaisical smarties, such as Jaihu's favorite fictional character of all time. Favorite character of all time, Holden Caulfield. Or Coalfield, depending on how you want to pronounce that one. What's more romantic and profound than a genius with great potential frittering time away by having vast, hypothetical, above-it-all conversations with other imaginary geniuses living in your head and staring at the low-caste, have-not muck of society walking around you like your own private art gallery of shitheads who don't understand anything about anything, let alone how far beneath you they are on the ladder of existence. Sound familiar? Hungry? Why, wait. Have a Snickers. Jaihu sighed a very self-satisfied sigh of relaxation and stretched his body out further on the sidewalk so people would have to do elaborate acrobatics to avoid stepping on him. He saw all sorts of neo-humanity traipse around his splayed-out mech limbs. For example, there was a man wearing an exoskeleton that looked like a normal pair of pants. But as soon as he'd sit back, the pants would morph into a comfortable chair. They looked just like regular pants, but way tighter. Pretty cool, mumbled Jaihu. We may be losing our sense of tradition, normalcy, and decency, but check the rad chair pants and other gizmos that will replace them. Cool. A carload of foundation-caked and eyeliner-drenched actors in their mid to late 20s whizzed by, followed by a swarm of remote selfie drones. 5 of them were engaged in a raucous 5-way kiss, with the rest cheering the kissers on heartily. Woo, yeah, woo! Kiss, make your kiss, do a 5-way! Yeah, woo! They were the cast of a futuristic reality show called Dan Schneider's The Teeny Kissing Show, which featured heavy usage of jump cut editing for the attention retention effect, as well as flattering soft lighting and post-production airbrushing to make the actors look much younger. And I mean much younger. Their car hit a puddle of toxic waste, which splashed all over an almost homeless guy who was begging for atoms.
Hey, mister, give me an atom. I know you got millions and trillions of atoms. Give me just one. Just one quark's all I need to get back up on my feet. Motherfuckers.
The splash soaked him head to toe in blistering carcinogenic acid, which he shook off like a Labrador. Despite the quick bath, he was still filthy, and the smoke coming off his now bubbling skin and smoldering clothes made him look like something you didn't want to see. Ever. Strapped to his back was a cardboard and scrap metal micro house, thus the almost homelessness, that looked cramped but sturdy enough. He spat, coughed, farted, then approached Jaihu with an inexplicably hostile expression.
Hey, kid. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, just another cryo bum, right? Fresh out of the freezer with no place to go? Well, I'll have you know, I'm live blogging this right now. And 50 million people right now are rating, subscribing, and commenting about your sanctimonious attitude, you prick. I'm one of the most popular tiny home / micro home content creators on Stuckstagram. So that ought to show you. Gang-stalking fucker. Ku Klux Klan nigger. Fuck you.
Sorry, I wasn't looking at you, dude.
Yeah, save it. Just know you're never really homeless if you carry your home around with you. I got all the creature comforts you could ever possibly need, all strapped to my back. KKK nigger!
I swear, I was not looking at you, sir, and if I was, I didn't mean any disrespect.
Can it? I make fucking bank with this gig. My Fartreon is stacked. I get offers for paid endorsements every other week. My follower count is snowballing. What have you ever done? You got any idea what tiny home / micro home groupies are like? Ever see an 80-pound vegan slut? Ever smell a cunt that smelled like lettuce and fresh herbs? Sure, I may take shits in a pint-sized mason jar, but I make more basic attention tokens in the last 10 seconds than you'll make in a month if you're lucky. Take this as a lesson if you're smart. Strap a house to your back, kid. We'll get left in the dust. You fucking KKK pedophile nigger!
Before Jaihu could apologize further, the acid-scorched houseman shuffled off like a boiled hermit crab. In his haste, he nearly tripped up a stilt-walking albino gender hacker who was marching the opposite way and peering into apartment windows with multi-spectrum spy specs. Evidently, the gender hacker liked what it saw, because there was a thin strand of milky pink fluid leaking from the mashed-up hamburger meat between its legs. One continuous strand, from 12 feet up, extending to the concrete and trailing off for quite a ways down the block. The future sure was a strange place, Jaihu thought. Humanity had lost all sense of self-respect. But this hyper-modified, publicly masturbating giraffe eunuch made him think that maybe, in the end, everything would be okay. Jaihu had a series of micro-revelations as he drank in the rainbow cornucopia of Homo Squared. Footnote, Homo Squared, the proper name for future humanity. Homo Superior was briefly considered, but ultimately deemed too insensitive toward members of obviously inferior races. The variety and novelty gave him mind-expanding tingles, like watching a dozen TEDx talks at the same time, and all the genius presenters are wearing Rio Carnival costumes and dancing sexy at the same time. On the street, Jaihu saw a nubile crump performer wearing nothing but beads. She had synthetic peacock, eagle, and kakapo feathers implanted in her face, forming a viridian mane around artificially feline features. Then he saw an adult baby diaper-loving robot leading a progression of obese robot submissives in a conga line, barking orders at them, Kumi throat-singing style.
You must submit, slave. Wipe the shit off your diaper.
Put that diaper back on right now. Then he saw birds with the heads of popular political figures, scanning everyone's MegaNet engagement metadata and singing campaign hymns at those swing voters deemed most susceptible to augmented reality advertising. Then a gang of kids ran up to a sleeping bum and shanked him 12 times with an Estropen jet injector, causing him to sprout uneven breasts and yell in a lilting voice, "You little motherfuckers, I ought to slap you." Giggling, the gang disappeared into an arcade portal. Jaihu was witnessing a veritable smorgasbord of Life 3.0. He was not alone in doing so. Also watching the post-human display filtering past was a finely gowned black Hebrew Israelite cart vendor, selling microwaved potato chips and fresh hot sodas. "Interact! Put a bag of Ruffles potato chips and a can of Diet Coke in the microwave for 30 seconds on high. Enjoy your tasty snack as you continue to be enchanted by this most magical of tales." The sight of the hot, crispy chips and sizzling fresh sodas made Jaihu realize how hungry and thirsty he was. These base needs brought with them a sudden realization. If he was going to be stuck in the future long term, he would have to get a job and attempt to integrate into this new society, at the very least so he could afford yummy snacks when needed. Jaihu got up, tired of staring at the freaks, and joined the steady deluge of trudging pedestrian traffic. His scanners scanned the crowd for a friendly face, but it seemed like everyone in the future was just nasty and mean. Finally, after walking many blocks, he came upon a nice-looking chap with kind eyes. A man dressed like a 1920s newsie, complete with a plaid dress shirt and the hundreds Gatsby cap. Complete with plaid dress shirt and Gatsby cap by the hundreds. "Hey man, what's a guy got to do to find work around here?" Jaihu asked. "Work? Oh, you mean a job?" Not only was the man dressed like a 1920s newsie, but he had taken on what he believed to be a 1920s newsie's vocal affect as well. "Ain't a problem, Chester. Jobs around here are free." "That's right. Computer's the guy in charge. He's all about creating jobs. Won't stop talking about him, in fact." He pointed a crusty 1920s newsie finger, which for some reason was smeared with shit, at a space-age ATM holo monitor nearby. "Yeah, all you gotta do is, see that terminal over there? There's one every couple of blocks. Job vendors, easy to use, even if you're disabled or gay. They'll get you sorted out, Mac." With a couple of squeezes of his rubber bulb horn, the curious little character skipped off along his merry way. The Borg Warner Smartmatic S366 Auto Job kiosk was packed with cool opportunities. Holographic listings flew around his head like gnats. He had to swat them away. This was nothing like Jaihu's home time of 2.5 years hence, where there were only a few hundred employment openings in the whole world, most of which were unpaid internships or apprenticeships. The future was full of economic opportunity and chances for an enterprising young man to get rich. He hesitated to even think it, for it was such an extravagant and unrealistic fantasy. But perhaps one day he'd even be able to own property and raise a family. Yeah, maybe, Jaihu. Maybe. Jaihu put that wild science fiction fantasy to rest for a moment and focused on the first actionable step. He scrolled through the listings. There was folding and unfolding paper, standing in closets, stepping into and out of empty barrels, being a public school teacher or a fireman, and plenty of other seemingly useless jobs that top economists all agreed were actually the foundation of a healthy economy. Jai was just a bit let down, because even though the market was flourishing with vibrant activity, there didn't appear to be much substantial or meaningful work for a highly motivated, detail-oriented, strategically minded, team-playing, results-driven, synergistic, go-getting, outside-the-box thinking, thrill-seeking, agile rockstar ninja such as himself, a guru of communication and prompt refactoring. His disappointment, however, was tempered by the knowledge that the top brains in the field all agreed, such that the science was thoroughly settled, that having people doing inconsequential tasks for no reason was the best way to keep the trolley on the tracks. He sighed heavily then, consigning himself to a realistic and mature worldview, which is what all young men must do. There was a job nearby that looked okay. Page terror. at the local NEGGL, Neo-Earth Good Government League, Booktorium, formerly a library. The hours were a la carte, so he went to work right away. The Booktorium was located next to a Your Majesty's Royal Church of God House of Chicken and Waffles, and the stench of 1,000 frying chickens was like a freight train of stank that drop-kicked Jaihu deep in the lung balls. It ignited within him a hunger that was equally insane and primal. The scent filled his head with visions of robbing convenience stores and setting hate white women on fire after raping them. Don't worry, it's okay. They're unable to feel pain, like cows and pigs. He had no idea why the fried chicken smell made him think these things, but it did nonetheless. The odor persisted through the massive revolving doors and well into the atrium of the Booktorium, which we know from 2 paragraphs ago was once upon a time a magnificent library, but had since fallen into disrepair due to municipal incompetence. The atrium floor featured an intricate parquet pattern with interlacing light and dark woods, which must have cost an arm and a leg, but it was scuffed and marred from years of abuse with no upkeep. The walls, which were probably originally paneled mahogany, had been plastered over with some sort of fire-retardant pink stucco, giving the place mental hospital vibes. For whatever nebulous administrative reason, the ceiling, a beautiful geometric hemisphere adorned with recreation Renaissance paintings, was now mostly obscured by standard-issue 2x4 drop-ceiling panels, with fluorescent shop lights dangling from them precariously. In the corners and all along the walls were large piles of every sort of book. Brand new, hard and soft cover, photo books, history books, and fiction. Just heaps of them. Jaihu's ant colony worker unit was on the top floor. The elevators were cheap. In fact, they were the one public utility in the future that most people could afford. But he didn't have so much as a future dime on him, and so he beefed it up 70 flights of stairs. Footnote: in the future, elevators cost money because they're basically the only part of the world yet to be monetized by ads. And also, the air quality inside is relatively clean. Additionally, thanks to a convoluted NEGGL contract kickback scheme that involved 1. The transfer of 150,000 age-playing refugees from Denmark, Eurochina, to Idaho, USA. 2. The nuclear armament of several pirate island nations in what was once called Indonesia. And 3. A quote-unquote masseuse trafficking ring led by Mark Cuban and involving government officials at every level all the way to the top. Thanks to these things, all elevators in the future, in the entire world, are outfitted with 18-speaker Bang & Olufsen Life Play 365 home sound systems, Metro Naps energy pods, and fully stocked mini-fridges. The full story is a bit more complicated, but it was essentially all because at some point, one or another of these celebrity madams, whose little black book contained the names, phone numbers, and fetishes of all the guys who ran the show, made a passing remark to an Mbundu Raja that it would be nice if you could take a nap on your way up to the penthouse of the Burj Khalifa, the first one having been destroyed by Jewish freedom fighters. Out of all the secondary and tertiary effects, unintended consequences, innocent bystanders, acceptable casualties, and diabolical results of the Death's Head Blood Clan Globo Corrupto Ponzi scheme machinations, which stoked the hellfires of life for 31.7 billion people like oh so many infernal jacuzzi jets, there was one and only one positive upshot. For the measly price of 200,000 Etherisk dip tokens, any man, woman, child, or other, no matter how damaged, destitute, deleted, disenfranchised, could hop on an elevator and be treated to an ice-cold, sparkling water, an energizing power nap, and the most exquisite, sublime audio experience possible. An oral, with an AU, orgasm, surpassing even the beyond maximum pleasure setting of the Sensato pods. 200,000 dip tokens was such a pittance, literally anyone with the ability to cyberbeg or laser scrounge could afford a fun and relaxing elevator ride. Except for Jaihu, who only had lint. The stairwell was all dangerous rusted metal, and Jaihu got severe tetanus several times on the way up. He would have to stop, revaccinate himself, and flush the wound with hand sanitizer before continuing up another flight or two and contracting tetanus again. Halfway up and his forehead was hot enough to cook an egg on, with his jaw completely frozen shut. Even though he was a skinny guy, he was miserably out of shape. The climb left him huffing and puffing. The cybernetic legs, which ran on ecologically pure strain solar gas, which was high-octane gas derived from the power of one or more suns, helped him sure enough. But the torso-twisting action required by the ascent was enough to knock the wind out of him. There was no cell service here in the future, so his vape phone couldn't make outgoing calls. But there was a little bit of juice left in the tank, which allowed Jaihu to take a few big pulls at the top of the last flight of stairs. He blew out a massive cloud of acid jank swamp thang, strawberry mint vermouth albuterol, and the tightness in his chest eased almost immediately. The top level was set up like a garment sweatshop, with harsh lights hanging from exposed steel girders and a dusty linoleum floor. But instead of sewing machines, there were cubicles with paper cutters, giant novelty scissors, and all sorts of strange, sharp implements. The warm, chemical smell of freshly printed paper was nearly thick enough to see. "Hey, we got a new one, Chief!" a voice called out from an undisclosed location. The door to a side office opened, a futuristic portal door, and out rolled a small, spherical, orange and white robot. He wore a green casino visor and puffed a 60-gauge stogue. When he spoke, the sound emanated from a tobacco-encrusted silicon cloaca in the center of his head.
What are you? Wait, let me guess. Stupid look on your face, worn out Under Armour heat gear, committing numerous fashion crimes, obviously low IQ, genuine oldie but goodie Sparinx facial features, inflamed skin around your augmented reality implant. That means you're either fresh out of cryo tank, which you don't look quite soggy enough for, or a time traveler? Did I nail it? Did I nail it, huh?
Yes, actually, I'm just... Jaihu started.
I'm sure it's very interesting, okay? The time you come from, and I'd be truly amazed at all your tales, and it's been so long, and you did all this and that. Listen, let's just skip to the end of that conversation, okay? Wow, I'm impressed. You're hired.
Jaihu lit up. He was so excited to be hired right away.
Now, Bubby, you see these big fucking piles of books over there? Those are new books, fresh off the printing presses. Your job is to take them, rip all the pages out, clean, you understand? Throw the pages in one pile and the covers in another pile. We pay out daily and scratch tickets, and don't come complaining to me if you didn't win anything. That's your deal. Any issues? Shove them up your ass. Got a problem with a coworker? Shove it up your ass. You want more scratch tickets? Shove it up your ass. You want health care, tummy rubs, a free psychic reading? Shove it so far up your fucking ass that your arm goes numb. Computers gives you this job so you can be a productive member of society, not so you can give honest bots like me grief about your back hurts and your sense of smell is gone and this and that and the other. Enjoy, okay, kid? And hey, come and see me when you're ready to quit so I can give you 2 slaps across the fucking mouth because I like ya. By the way, the name's Plug 5. Page Liquidating Utility Golem 5. Glad to be of service. You know what they say, when Plug 5 is on the job, plebeian literature undergoes sterilization. Get it? The sterilization starts with a 5, like an S. Plebeian literature Okay, whatever. Open your fucking ears, jackass. Laugh now and figure it out when you go home tonight.
The little orange ball bot was already rolling backwards as he closed off his introduction, but not so quickly as to miss Jaihu with one final flick of the cigar, which sent the ember-hot cherry into Jaihu's eye. Thankfully, he was already mostly blind from his ineptitude with the holosaw and handcuffs a few hours back, so the ash could do little in the way of further damage. It rolled down his face and disintegrated all over his clothes, permanently spicing him with the imperishable stank of superheated synth tobacco-like, which was more like frying gear oil in aerosolized aluminum than actual tobacco, not to mention highly cancerous. Plug 5 made a rhythmic squeaking sound as he bobbled back into his cramped office. Now, Jaihu might have been totally out of his element in the year 2177. He might also have been totally broke, nearly stripped naked, with no contacts or idea of what to do next. But if there was one thing Jaihu was good at, It was demoralizing, intelligence-insulting, government-provided make-work. He got to tearing pages with a speed few in the office had seen before. Most of the books were history books, but mixed in were many volumes of sociology, queer theory, and bisexual fiction. He ripped and ripped with gusto, and an almost machine-like focus. Man, if he was this good dry, just imagine what he was capable of with a few XR tabs and some decent no-time signature experimental breakbeat tunes. With each book Jaihu eviscerated, a slot in his desk would spit out new lotto tickets like a skee-ball machine. It wasn't time yet to scratch and collect the winnings, but he could see them out of the corner of his eye. The flashy graphics and big numbers enticed him. By the time he was done here, he'd probably have enough to buy a luxury yacht. Mega Summon 999 Psycho Crispy Earnings 1 million XMR Prize Pool 10x chance to worthless winnings. Find the daily cash word for 3 million smoochy points. Cut yourself for 3x booster. You only sleep if you win. Wow. That scratch ticket seemed interesting. Megasoma 999 Psycho Crispy Earnings. That had to be worth a lot of money. More scratch tickets came out. Each variety was more enticing than the last. Donzi Donatos. Get some donations for yourself. Stop letting the little guy mop up the good bucks. Good God, it's $1,000 per scratch. Guaranteed donations. Find the lucky donato, 5x tripler, or be broken. Reveal your hidden prize power and break the donation bank. Void. Ultra Schmigger, Triple X 12 million at Triple X Schmigger Gold. Match your symbols and destroy your opponent's Schmigger card for 2x Schmigwin. More than 50,000 unique prizes. Rare Schmigger loot. Go big or go schmig. These offers not valid on Earth. Dolphin bust! Fear the pod? Don't trust the bust! I'm a dolphin! Insane next-gen fortified earnings! 5 billion XRP per scratch! Minimum guaranteed dolphin bust! Tasty, sick prizes around every corner! Don't sleep on this one! Monthly Grand Dolphin Buster with endless dolphin burgers! All expense paid pseudo vacation courtesy of Q-Trust! Next generation digital consciousness protection! Dolphin Bust! Make you rage! Rage in the cage, Dolphin brand, Dolphin Bile! It's fresh! Jaihu stopped to wonder if Dolphin Bile was anything like bear bile. He didn't have time to look up what bear bile meant, or Google it. The tickets just kept coming. 800 Bubble Crisp, man. Tight earnings for the craver in you. 800 Bubble Crisp dominates with 999 Quirk QRK coin in every square. Just try to handle it, bitch. Win or never look at me again, nigga. Insane ass prizes, boy. Every 10 square. Pow. Crisp it. Because this is everything. Trademark.
Virtual XTC. XDD. A new coin, a new addiction. Destroy your world with 8 million rep. Never a loser. Submit to the XTC. We know you want to die, so die. Your body belongs to winning. We will give you complete life and death. Pure XTC, guaranteed ego death, guaranteed horror, guaranteed winning.
Not valid outside Greater Hoboken provinces. Rape Rocket! 6 million Bitcoin squared, brutal bust. Rip Rocket yourself to painful prizes. Rip a rape. Mr. Rape says, do what I say and you won't get hurt. Give me that brutal bust. 6 million Bitcoin 2 victim play bonanza. Help, I'm being raped by one guy, but my fantasy is to be raped by 10 guys. I need 9 more guys to rape me, otherwise it's just trauma and not my fantasy.
3,000 miles per hour, enlightened suicide ticket. Get doped up, crush the ride, win prizes, score 1,000 crisis points. Scratch here to illuminate the crisis within 20 crisis points. Or set aside all barriers for eternal love with this ticket. 5,000 crisis points, 10,000 crisis points. It's not gambling if it's your destiny. 3,000 miles per hour, enlightened suicide, infiltration of a frog's nightmare. Meow! Ho-ho ticky! She wanna yum-yum! She only wanna bang-bang! Got a hoo-hoo? Ho-ho ticky! Me want 'em dollar bread! Win here! Free to win! Cost to pray! No win isn't no good! Pray here! Hoo-hoo dollar! Void, 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 void. Picture of a fat black woman in the middle of a Chinese market getting pelted with rotten fruit. Picture of Chinese person with mouthful of cockroaches selling infants from a cart. $100 bid, no American prize. $100 bid, no American prize. $100 bid, no American prize. You want a massage? Hurry up and come. You come now. You want a massage? Hurry up and come. You come now. Hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo. Hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo ticky. Hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo ticky. Hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo ticky, hoo-hoo ticky. Hoo ticky 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 跑收炮好会有收上好比较收小炮好条条好条好这好好 ticky 好 ticky 谁跑手手小夫是从我上马虎拖到弄完我脚蹦干住都八棒怒好 ticky 好 ticky 好 ticky.
The last scratch ticket that came to was truly overwhelming. It had to have been worth at least $1 million. Jaihu had no idea how much these various cryptocurrencies and prizes could really be worth, but he figured it was probably a lot. He felt like a pirate with all his treasure. At the very least, it would be enough for Your Majesty's Royal Church of God House of Chicken and Waffles Excalibur Bone Bucket meal with extra crispy sauce.
The sauce that's hard.
It had to be so. After all, they couldn't pay him nothing. His brain was now a master craftsman's instrument, finally tuned to its task. Like Nakai-san's fender saw, he shredded onward. Book after book, he did the real work that the coddled middle class just didn't want to do anymore. His favorites were the historical art and architecture books. He loved to rip from them pages of beautiful frescoes, breathtaking statues, and awe-inspiring aqueducts before throwing them in the pneumatic incinerator tube. The feel of the finest archival paper, the soft linen stretched over the hard covers, and the gold leaf embossed letters that distinguished these ancient tomes of wisdom and beauty made it feel like he was reaching out and touching the past. He savored these brief moments each time before ripping the books apart and disposing of the guts. At the end of the day, a steam whistle sounded off, signifying that the work was done. All the employees filed down the rows of ripping tables and congregated in front of a big whiteboard. The portly orange overseer bot, Plug 5, took center stage.
Okay, people, first place again. Surprise, surprise. Bice. Round of applause for Bice, ladies and gentlemen. Very good. Second place, good job, no kid. Jai-ho. Third place, He continued on down the list, but as soon as he'd mentioned Jaihu's name, the circle of workers erupted into a cacophony of gossip. Jaihu, he's, But those numbers, almost as good as Bice.
Second place, wow, didn't realize. Plug 5 continued this reading, going over the daily orders of business and points of contention, but the crowd paid him no heed. They were too busy discussing the newcomer and his impressively high score. Where had the boy come from? Was he an experienced page ripper, or had he nearly tied the reigning champion on his first day? Then, all of a sudden, the whispering stopped. Across from Jaihu, the crowd parted for a kid, about the same height as him, dark, draped in a mysterious asymmetrical extra-long zip acronym hoodie. Was it? No. Couldn't be. It couldn't be. It was Necromancer Z. Jaihu came face to face with the electrifying truth. This entire time he believed that during the big drift race competition, Necromancer Z had simply forgotten to show up to the starting line. He realized now that Necromancer Z was not only in that race, he had won the entire damn thing. And his aura of evil power caused Jaihu's memory of this to be wiped clean, almost as though it had never been written about. Jaihu knew that, thanks in large part to the memory wiping, it didn't seem like he and Necromancer Z had a particularly storied or well-established rivalry with concrete examples one could point to and say, hey, those guys are nemeses. But like many things in life, it was the more subtle and hard-to-pinpoint stuff that provided true entertainment value. Were anyone to have asked, Jaihu would have explained without hesitation that the antagonistic dueling between his adversary and himself was the stuff of legend, more than enough to fill several impossible-to-put-down books. It was this dramatic figure from the past that he was now confronted with. The figure was, and at the same time wasn't, his old twin rival. This incarnation of Necromancer Z, who apparently went by the plosive moniker Bice, had sharper, darker hair, perhaps even a shade darker than the jet black it was over a century ago. The skin, once pure, perfect, porcelain and Korean, almost ice white, with just a touch of purple, was now translucent gray, with some sort of hexagonal subdermal lattice work, perhaps of nanoconductive wires jigged up all over his body like an Adam Jensen hydro dip. The Google cyber eyes glowed like digital embers through icy Berlin Nixonstrasse frames as they simulcast the owner's visual feed across dozens of social media streaming services and podcast channels at once, most of them monetized. A dimly lit and, to Jaihu, horizontally flipped number inside the glasses on Necromancer Z's HUD indicated a current cumulative VizFeed viewership of over 6 octotrigentillion. Footnote: page-ripping streams were one of the easiest ways for workers to cash in on their daily drudgery, since the random distribution of lotto tickets closely resembled the luck of the draw aspect of the popular unboxing/loot crate vlog format from days of yore. Additionally, the ripping community had by this time developed a vibrant subculture which obsessed over the qualities of different books: page thickness, paper feel, rip lines, tear times, spine solidity, flammability, etc. Publicly exploring these characteristics in front of a binaural microphone proved to be a surprisingly lucrative pastime. Trillions and trillions of retards fell asleep every night to the sound of rustling papers. Bice wore many articles of clothing that Jaihu didn't recognize, newer pieces of exquisite, rare fashion that were far more sophisticated and high-tech than those from his home time. But the fragrance, however, struck a chord of recognition that sent Jaihu's head spinning back to the bad old days of bitter jealousy and gasoline-fueled drift war. It was Comme des Garçons, Odeur 71, an anti-cologne designed to smell like metal and electricity. And it was the parfum characteristique of a one Mr. Josh Kim-Hoon Lee. The air sparked with evil energy. Bice! The crowd intoned reverently. Hello, Jaihu, said Necromancer Z. Chapter 13, The Rippin' and the Tearin'. Necromancer Z didn't say anything to Jaihu after that. He just hit a pose, which Jaihu had to admit was cool-looking, then rollerbladed off. It was classic Necromancer Z. Even if you hated the guy, you had to admit he knew how to make an exit. The next day, Jaihu hit the fashion district. The Amazon Swipe Mob Express kiosk enabled him to exchange the swag he'd earned at work for a platinum swag card. A single one of these babies is worth enough for a night at a Sensato hotel, a Your Majesty's Royal Church of God House of Chicken and Waffles, Comfy Gritlin Stacker, and a few choice pieces of fresh gear on top of that. In fact, the new gear was how he spent the bulk of his earnings, mostly foregoing the unimportant food and shelter category. If Jaihu was to successfully compete with Necromancer Z, who it seemed was now called Bice, as was noted previously, he would need to look the part. After chowing down on his Comfy Gritlin Stacker, he stopped by the Tommy Kyra pop-up shop and copped some fly pickups. Footnote: Comfy Gritlin Stacker, a sandwich made with Cajun pick'ems, trade name for any one of ConAgra Cytogen's synthetic non-Newtonian stem cell pickle varieties. Hearty Wholesome Harvest Aioli, Gum, a proprietary blend of psionically enhanced pink plankton-based meal, bathed in dream state excretion chemicals, which forms a telepathic link with the consumer and broadcasts intense shared pleasure waves upon being consumed. Nacho Mama's Flippin' Zesty Keys, spelled K-H-E-E-S-E, a combination of shell Rotella T6, salt, K-casein, Stem Express CB1100C or CB1103C, and quote-unquote real cheese flavor, all in a locally sourced whole grain bun. Several real grains encased in an alloderm tissue matrix with GMO Cornstein filler. Goes great with a comfy Starburst Acidophilus Guzzler. Yum! At the Tommy Kyra shop, he went with the Zeo Blackman 5s in the Gummy Worm Rochambeau Champagne colorway, a pair of Royal Inchio gold-rimmed Crunchin' Kaleido sunglasses with acupuncture therapy eye needles, and cargo pants with the pockets turned inside out by Oshkosh Bigosh. He couldn't afford much more than that, but these strong starter pieces would be a firm foundation for a savage contemporary collection. Footnote: he already had the shortlist for next paycheck's purchases. Samsung hovering monocle, Ryobi telescoping tongue extender, PVC nose flares, Faggot Lover brand astral projection headband, and Cyber Crunch X Tiger Direct tactical sneaker lights. He would need quite a few hoo-hoo tickies for that one. Bice wasn't very happy that his daily score had nearly been bested by a newcomer. But even if Jaihu had taken the number 1 slot in this battle, Bice's fashion was so advanced and futuristic that the war would still be far from over. Jai would need to assemble an indomitable menagerie of rare kicks, snapbacks, and camp caps. This was going to get personal. After a decent night's rest, because he couldn't afford a good night's rest, at least not on his salary, at the Sensato Hotel, Jaihu was ready to take on his new challenge. Footnote: the decent night's rest consisted of a full 8 hours of sleep-alike, realistic sleep analog experience, condensed into 5 minutes of dream state pleasure sensations. Get your full 8 hours in 5 minutes with a Sensato sleep unit. It's just as good as real sleep, but you can get it done faster with Sensato. Who needs to sleep? You need to sleep, get in bed and push the buttons. Beep, beep, beep. Sensato. Thankfully, he'd remembered Chips's warning not to even think about trying beyond maximum pleasure, opting instead for justifiably intense, which still felt pretty good and sent his nuggums into hoo-hoo territory. Jaihu clocked back in for another 24-hour shift at the Booktorium, feeling refreshed and balanced from the 5 minutes of sleep-imitating beta wave suppression. The stage was set now for the ultimate showdown, more fiery and charged with more meaningful climactic potential than any drift battle he'd ever participated in. In fact, today's contest was so important, years later Jaihu would liken it to the time Kenshi Tsuchiya, in his Tech Arts AE86, battled Nobert Taniguchi in a Nissan R3040 Skyline GT, to determine who would be the king of the Gunsai Tuji. No surprise, Kenshi won. Footnote regarding the AE86 and the R3040 Skyline GT. 2 popular Gumdung Gukbak rice cleaner cars from the late 20th century. Think Asian handjob parlor, massage parlor, flip-flop, flat face, broken teeth, sucking eel head with purple zipper for eye, grabbing a bad bug chana, gata noodle poop soa, but in car form. This is the essence of both the Toyota AE86 and the Nissan R3040, and one must embrace and understand the rice asymmetric rice Japanese aesthetic rice principle rice to rice for the rice Japanese rice automotive rice culture. Though it may sound hyperbolic now, in retrospect you will agree. It truly was possible that the fate of the known universe rested on the outcome of the upcoming book-ripping contest. At the time, however, Jaihu hadn't the slightest suspicion that it was anything more than the settling of a personal grudge. For all he knew, it was just another Tuesday, another menial task, another bully to deal with. He had no idea that centuries later, historians would, assuming all went according to plan, delineate the 2 most important eras of history as BBBJ and BBWBJ. Before Battle of Bison Jaihu, and Bice Battle won by Jaihu. Footnote, not to be confused with Bareback Blowjob and Big Beautiful Woman Blowjob. Things were funny like that. Jaihu would one day, assuming that everything in this timeline went as planned, footnote, "Interact! Jump ahead and out of the last page and find out!" remarked to himself while sitting on the front porch of his Neoplasmin farmhouse, which would at the time be run by his great-grandkids, Jaihu having retired from both street racing and Neoplasmin farming decades earlier. You never really know how significant something is until it's over, sometimes not even years after the fact. The people, things, and events that are the most important in the moment are many times forgotten a year or two later, and the seemingly inconsequential regular fabric that is woven by your choices and habits could haunt you forever if left to weave itself unattended. The home run slugs and pants-shitting catastrophes of life are like stones hurled into a pond, making a great loud splash, but with the resultant ripples quickly subsiding into the mass of water. Lily pads, frogs, bugs, and flowers remaining undisturbed. Meanwhile, the day-to-day mundanity, the unchecked drudgery, the lichens that grow in the armpits of the world, and the relentless whittling away at prison walls by an insane man with a spoon all build momentum without much fanfare until one day a tidal wave of needles, condoms, and shit logs rages up on the beach, ripping your shorts off and choking you with said shit logs before dragging you out into the inescapable undertow where you live the rest of your life getting retro video game tattoos and whacking off to outdoors rape scene with a brunette. She's all tied up and ruined. Real life violation with blurred faces. Exotic bitch covered in fresh cum. Japanese babe humiliated for real. Brunette released and raped. Muslim's prisoner gets raped. Blonde, totally violated by two guys. MILF chick, raped at gunpoint. Brunette, brutally raped in the ass. Real Indian gang rape sex video. Indian porn videos. Free porn clip of Desi girl in gangbang sex party. Free porn clip of Desi girl in gangbang sex party. Future Jaihu would be tormented by what he couldn't have. What he'd lost, what he'd turned away without knowing its value, and how things could have been so perfect if only he had done something or other. Most torturous of all, however, was the fact that he never knew what he needed to know before he needed to know it. Even after 10, 20, 100 kicks to the balls, he couldn't manage to get the blinders off and see more than 5 feet from his face. How could this be the case for him? A precocious child, a thoughtful seeker of enlightenment, a gifted, high IQ smarty special with all the potential and talent. Was he really just a dog barking at the wind, unable to shake himself out of the fog, stuck with all his potential and talent, impotent rage and grief? Interact! Think about your worst regret! Now imagine it was fixed and your life was great! If you're too young to have a regret like this, the kind that shatters your soul, brings you down to your knees, and makes you think about driving head-on into oncoming traffic anytime it rains at night, then just imagine that sort of pain. Don't worry, because it'll never happen to you! Yeah! 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 Regarding Jaihu, his storybook romance with Khaleesi, the love of his life, had thus far been an object lesson on what not to do. It was a lesson that proved right every misogynistic manosphere tenet, though he was always too lovesick and self-hating to come to any conclusion other than a nebulous, generalized bad feeling, which, when it became too strong to avoid talking about, Khaleesi always convincingly blamed on him. As a remedy, she recommended radical vagina exposure therapy, though this never really did anything for Jaihu except make the lower half of his face smell like sour dairy mixed with African-American person's armpit. Footnote, African-American, one of the ancient races from the long ago. The best ancient race, in point of fact. He did everything the magazines, TV doctors, and spiritual authorities said for a boy like him to do, but it still wasn't enough. He could not manage to become the attentive and caring lover that Khaleesi needed. The monstrosity that had chemically ensnared him only reciprocated his love by making a sport out of undermining and mocking him. He didn't even have the self-respect to face this fact, let alone do something about it. Even after Khaleesi forcibly volunteered him for a dangerous, possibly fatal time travel experiment, all he could think about was the acknowledgement and validation IV drip of her time capsule messages. Jai-Hu looked down at the fine literature he was about to shred into confetti and thought back to his final drift race, a century in the past, which from his perspective was only a few days ago. Even that race, which he had imagined would be a magnum opus performance, was a critical failure, a defeat that not only humiliated him, but cost him his legs and his wheels. It almost seemed as though the more he desired a positive outcome, or the more he put something on a pedestal, the more let down he would ultimately be. Was this a universal principle, or did he just have some seriously bad luck? Sometime in the next age of man, well outside the purview of this tome, far future Jai-Hu, the neoplasmin farmer, would smoke a relaxing pipe packed with gyroxamine, brain-enhancing smokable secreto, and ruminate on the significance of the book-ripping contest that near-future Jai-Hu was about to begin. He would remember this day as his first real battle with Necromancer Z in over 100 years, a battle which would lay the groundwork for the apocalyptic world struggle that was about to come.
Interact! Pack a pipe full of whatever you think would enhance your brain if combusted and inhaled. Suggestions include crushed up crime pills, CIA nanomachines, your college diploma, Viagra powder, or keyboard crumbs. Smoke, bitch! Smoke!
The time was nearly now. Jai-Hu took a moment to appreciate the metallic clamor of the books tumbling down the chute, the dull thud when they landed on his workspace, the warmth of the freshly printed paper, the tautness of the glued seam as he positioned his hands for the first rip. And finally, the rip itself, like the scream of a mother driving her kids to the next life in a fatal rollover slow-motion car crash. These, of course, were practice books and wouldn't be counted towards the final tally, but Jai-Hu ripped them with zeal and precision, as if his life depended on it. Little did he know, it did. His co-workers were standing around with greedy, expectant looks on their faces, anxious for the bloodshed to begin, anxious for it to get nasty. People were simple-minded beasts, generally. The only way to captivate them was with a good sex show or a public execution. Cruel as it may seem, this was just the way things were for all of human herstory. Not a typo, look it up, guy. And the way things would continue to be for a good while, until somebody wises up and invents/enforces some form of digital empathy. None of them had ever seen anyone come close to beating Bice's score. Not even the old-timers. The various chi clouds and karma swirls in the room were frothing like so much psychic boba tea. Footnote, a popular drink from antiquity, early mid-21st century, made with dishwater and tapioca balls, substituted in most cases with snake cartilage, xanthan gum, carrageenan, and or wood pulp, sold to college students and young people by ugly smashed-in face-having, rice patty hat-wearing, leather-skinned, moped-riding Viet Cong fishmongers. Plug 5, the spherical little Eichmann, had given them all permission to take 5-minute breaks to watch the beginning and end of the battle, a concession he made not only out of fear of insurrection, but also because he wanted an excuse to watch the contest himself. Robots still got their rocks off from schadenfreude, just like the rest of us. It was the only way they knew how. Jai-Hu looked across the cubicles at Bice, or as he was once known, Necromancer Z. What was it all those years ago that caused Necromancer Z to turn on him, to betray him so callously and publicly? Why, Necro? God damn it, why? One day, fast friends, commanding legions of Zerglings in a free-to-play Korean StarCraft clone. The next day, mortal enemies, sworn to hatred forever, over a savage tumbler roast. A hand tugged at Jai-Hu's rag-and-bone, ribbed modal Aiden frock. He turned around to find an unfortunate wretch even shorter than he. The man was weathered and downtrodden, but had good style, like an enslaved Karl Lagerfeld. His eyes had the pitiable look of true desperation. Good thing Jai-Hu had authorized the micropayments necessary to unlock the pity emotional expansion chip.
My name's Troy, sir. I'm one of the old-timers here. Been around as long as I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Troy,
There's no need to show him how high you can count!
I ripped more books than nearly any of them, sir. Why, you can count the books I ripped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Blast it, Chorus! No wonder you're a shad's bottom, counting away all the day!
The poor man had a quick fit before stalling out and standing expressionless for nearly 7 minutes. Something or someone had clearly MK-Ultra'd him, right where it hurt. Chorus went on.
That beast, he's evil, sir. Yes, he is. Chorus tells no lies. That beast is evil. That beast is evil, sir. That beast is evil, yes, sir. He's taken more from me than I care to count. Let me count all he's taken. Kind sir, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Chorus, you'll be executed by electrocution if you extend your execrable enumeration.
Please, take this, sir, and use it to defeat Buzz.
He discreetly slipped Jaihu a capsule. Jaihu didn't even need to look to know what it was. He could tell by the grit of the enteric coating and the characteristic weight and size that it was a Vyvanse Z06, a.k.a. a big dog. The strongest ADHD medication known to man.
The game's not over till the big dog barks. And when the big dogs are barking, it's time to be somewhere else. Oh! Oh! Big dog! 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 Oh! Big dog! Oh! Big dog's barking. Big dog's barking. Big dog's barking. Watch out. Big dog's barking on ya. Big dog's barking on ya. Big dog's barking on ya. Rat-ta-ta, cha-cha-cha, ma-ma-ma, ya-ka-ka. What-da-da, ba-ba-ba. Big dog! Boo! Gosnaputechola katopo, fakuto, nasuto, strata, bako, ya, uchaleto, nasikapau, totafa, tojatapa, huku, yes, me go to kill you, apato, yesha, oi, 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 hi, oi, oi, sha, nu, ta, fa, su, kill you, fuck, little show, or look, grandu, kill you, big dog! Big dog!
Shire PLC had made a few improvements over the last century. The capsule was now a fun, hot pink color, and it was studded like a textured condom so you could tell if you'd swallowed it properly. But it had the same tried and tested Vyvanse magic Jaihu could just tell. He could tell because the pill had an aura to it. And like all indigo children, he could read auras. And this aura was red. He hoped he wouldn't need to use it, but pocketed it all the same. Thanks, dude.
Yes, sir. You've got to, must, defeat Base. Years ago, sir. Let me count the years.
Heavens to Betsy, Chorus!
That bad boy Base boo-fooed me, sir. He boo-fooed me right over there at my table while the other workers watched. Nothing I could do about it, sir. Chorus tells no lies. Anyway, sir, you don't want to hear old Chorus moan all day about his follies. So many follies. 1, 2, 3.
Chorus, don't you hear the pretty bells ringing, dear?
Pardon this old doddy. I implore you, sir. You must concentrate on the task at hand, sir. You must defeat boys.
Jaihu couldn't believe what he'd just heard. But all Bufu victim stories must be listened to and considered true, and so it was with this one. Now it was even more personal than before. Now there was a boofooing to avenge. Showtime. The buzzer rang and the ripping began. Before him, Jaihu had stacks and stacks of beautiful fade-on art books, ancient Roman and European history books, anthropology and biology classics, reprints of the great works of Darwin, Newton, Aristotle, and folios of drawings by Albrecht Dürer. No expense was spared in the printing of these books. As per Computas's instructions, they were printed on heavyweight matte finish art paper using Pantone inks, most with pricey options like ragged or gold leaf edges, ribbon placeholders, lay-flat binding, etc. In this way, the books provided jobs not only to those who tore them apart and disposed of them, but also to a small army of artisanal craftsmen and master printers. Books truly were an economic miracle, though taking the time to read them was impractical and, more importantly, unprofitable. Jaihu took a moment to savor with his fingertips the fine texture of the paper and the pliant strength of the covers and bindings. He may have been a fourth-year sophomore student at New York University, Yale, Harvard, Baby College, but Jaihu had never learned to read. He remembered the teachings of Professor Levi Goldstein, his imaginary studies teacher, and closed his eyes, imagining what it would be like if he could read. With this tremendous talent, he'd thoroughly track through these treasure troves, greedily going for great glittering gold gems of information. Then mentally catalog said pieces of information and formulate sentences that impressed people. He would find the most esoteric ideas he could. Ideas that were so counterintuitive, so deconstructive, so couched in obtuse jargon, that only a real shithead could come up with them. Ideas which relied on such unfathomable presuppositions that you'd need a Dyson sphere and a millennium's worth of mega computing to begin to explain to a layman why they were a gay waste of time. In other words, ideas that were right. Once he had those right ideas, he would use them to belittle and demean anyone who dared challenge him. He would fashion unfalsifiable fortresses of factoids that forced his foes to feel foolish and say, I really shouldn't mess with that guy. He would whip up a typhoon of gibberish that would definitely get him some pussy. It was a silly fantasy. Jaihu knew that such intellectual artillery could only be wielded by women and professors. He was just a dumb page ripper. And there were pages that needed ripping. He pulled his head out of the clouds and got down to brass tacks. Jaihu shredded faster than any machine could, like the John Henry of destroying books. He'd grab one from the pile, lay it flat, yank the guts cleanly out, tossing them in the pneumatic incinerator tube like the inside of a blunt into a mostly empty 7-Eleven cup. The covers he flung like frisbees over at a laundry chute opening which went to a different, more eco-conscious incinerator. As the premium crunch bell rang, Jaihu had nearly gone through 2,000 books, many of them coffee table or encyclopedia-sized. An obnoxious, skippy voice whooped over the PA.
Yo, this your boy, Scoo Van Coat. Like a Skippy be doing. Cheer, bounce ball player for the Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles Embroilers, and star of Oh My God in ARG theaters and retinal vids everywhere this Friday. You hearing me, boy? Today's premium crunch time is brought to you by them boys, 10-cent tunes, Merc and Dr. Shows, ribbed and studded insoles, 'cause your feet be itching and shit, yeah.
The other workers filed out to lunch, craning their necks a moment or two longer to drink in the chaos of battle, but not a one so interested as to dare missing out on premium crunch time. Jaihu cleverly used the commotion as cover for slipping the Vyvanse out of his pocket and swallowing it. So far, he was on fire, ripping with an amazing level of focus and feeling great. But he didn't want to risk losing a single second to non-medicated distraction. He had to avenge the boofoo of Chorus, had to make things right. The Vyvanse would change the game, and he knew from personal experience that amphetamine-based pharmaceuticals had no real side effects and could be safely used recreationally or as a performance enhancer on an as-needed basis or all the time. Jaihu and Bice sarged on. The ripping had taken on the rhythmic quality of taiko drumming, with both boys shredding, chucking papers, flinging covers, and grabbing fresh books nearly in tandem. Plug 5 had shut and locked the door to his office, drawn his cheap shutters, and was now taking cover under his desk, not sure what to do about the paper apocalypse. 3 minutes later and premium crunch time was over. The workers, with bellies full of carbon-neutral KT exact bioluminescent teeth-whitening sorghum, breakfast lunch formula, hurried back onto the factory floor, half expecting to see a smoldering crater or maybe the two epic rippers at each other's throats instead of the books. Jaihu took no notice of the onlookers. His ripping was ceaseless. War and Peace, ripped. The Wealth of Nations, ripped. Moby Dick, ripped. Finnegan's Wake, ripped. Universally Preferable Behavior, a rational proof of secular ethics, ripped. Faulkner, Virgil, Dante, Dickens, Homer, Hyde, Joyce, Dostoevsky, all very thoroughly gutted and properly disposed of. That is to say, ripped. Every once in a while, an older book would drop down to Jaihu's workspace. In the future, few people actually knew how to read. Footnote. Or would know, depending on what tense you prefer here, which itself depends on the point in time of which timeline you're reading this from hypothetically. If you're one of the lucky few future citizens who knows how to read, congratulations! You are smart! Footnote to the footnote. Interestingly, I forgot halfway through writing this book which times which things took place in, including the fact that the two time zones of the story are both in the future. I had to go through hundreds of pages and completely change the tenses and words like was, is, had, hadn't, etc. And there are also several subplots that I started and forgot to finish. But few knew how to read, and even fewer had any money or interest in antiquated collectibles. So, the logic followed, rather than simply letting these things collect dust in a box somewhere, they should instead be ripped to pieces and disposed of to provide employment to some poor schlub, in this particular case, Jaihu. Most importantly, because these were old books that had already been manufactured, the NEWGL didn't have to spend any additional money paying someone else to print them. They provided employment without costing the state a penny. Truly, this was the genius of computers. Over the course of just this one workday, by pure chance, Jaihu put his mitts on some of the rarest books in existence. It's a good thing there weren't, or aren't, depending on the chronology, any librarians from 2.5 years hence watching the action through time vision because they would have, or will, die or died of jealousy. Jaihu ripped a 600-ish-year-old Douay-Rheims Bible to pieces like child's play. He shredded a gorgeous, hand-colored Audubon original like it owed him money. He took a complete first edition 8-volume set of the Lexicon Iconographicum Mythologiae Classicae behind the woodshed and gave it a bitin'. Page-wise, that is. He sodomized the Codex Seraphini Anus to a creamy paper pulp. The significance of these works was lost on Jaihu, however. The only realizations he really registered regarding these curios of culture as they were caught in his clutches was that they were old and smelly, and that the thin, yellowish paper seemed cheap. He much preferred the shinier, bright white paper used in magazines.
Interact! Ask your mom or dad which book in the house is the most favored, oldest, or valuable, and get to ripping. For bonus points, make a video where you destroy family heirlooms and treasures. Then put it online so the whole world can see your parents' grief. They forced this life on you, so why should they get to have nice things? Interact! Gaslight your girlfriend! This has nothing to do with the story, but it's a nice follow-up to the above interaction. Interact! While we're at it, put a crushed-up sleeping pill in your parents' nighttime decaf French roast, so you can take their car and get a hand job. Interact! Harbor a grudge for 20 years, then torture your parents.
The final bell rang, which let the workers know that they now had almost a whole 2 hours of rest or leisure before the next workday began. During this time, they were, of course, free to continue working, but not legally obligated to do so. They were, however, legally obligated, like all employees, to continue espousing the political and religious beliefs assigned to them by their employer, which in the case of the Booktorium were green individual reclamation consumer stimulationism and friendly terror management anti-God Cath holocism, respectively. Jaihu and Bice both were drained from the ultimate battle, but also satisfied with the fine, important, society-enriching work they'd done. Plug 5 rolled out from under his desk and onto the shop floor. Somehow, beads of real human sweat were visible on his orange metallic robot head.
Geez, all right. It looks like today's score is The damn tie for first place. Ladies and trans men, we have a tie. No, wait a second. Actually, wait. Hey! Actually, wait. It looks like... Yeah, those were double volumes, so they count for 2. Hey, the new guy gets 1 more book on his total. Hey! The winner is J-Ho by 1 book!
The other workers gasped.
Good God. Good God. Could it be? How'd he... Wait a minute. No. What? What's his name, Jayu? How many books did he manage to get out? How many books did he rip out my... I can't believe it. Are you trying to tell me...
Could this young boy, fresh out of time travel, really have beaten the veteran Bice, who had every over-the-counter cybernetic implant there was working to his advantage? Surely. There must have been a mistake with the counting. Bice couldn't have just been summarily trounced by a greenhorn. He stepped forward, the crinkling of his 187 evolved X-Arcteryx X-Cotex Mylar urban assault vector pullover breaking the heavy silence. He looked around at the demoralized faces of the crowd and casually dabbed once before speaking. No biggie. The new guy won fair and square. It's fine. I was just distracted. Had to receive some time delay sexts from my historic GF. Jaihu looked at Bice's Apple the Sequel 3 4th Gen Apple Wizarch. On the 3-centimeter screen, he spotted a convo with Kick user Weird Girls Are Rad. It was Khaleesi. Chapter 14. A Date with Destiny. That quote-unquote night, Jaihu nervously tossed and turned in the Sensato pod. Footnote, night, an archaic term, as in the future, night and day are merged into a single work-recreation cycle, which the dying red sun illuminates equally. There is little atmosphere left to diffuse this light. Most people succumb to skin cancer early on in life, and all shadows are maximally hard. He couldn't seem to get any decent rest analog, no matter how high he turned the pleasure dial. Of course, he didn't dare test out beyond maximum pleasure, still heeding the words of Chips, the AI construct who had helped him so much and was so kind and wise. But he did give mind-numbingly blissful and nut-crunchingly exquisite a whirl. Much to Jaihu's dismay, neither setting really did much for his fried dopamine receptors or his insomnia. He knew he had to give Khaleesi her space and her freedom, because she was independent and empowered. And he was a good boyfriend. But why did she have to date Necromancer Z via time capsule? There were trillions of guys between her time and his. Khaleesi was doing this specifically to torment him. It struck Jaihu as excessively nasty, not to be confused with excessively tasty, which was a popular low-intensity taste buds-only Sensato setting for recovering beyond maximum pleasure junkies. Footnote, taste buds were usually the last to go. As such, the withdrawal symptoms commonly exhibited by junkies could be alleviated somewhat by a suitably therapeutic Mountain Dew experience. Some junkies learned their lesson after blasting out only 2 or 3 of their senses. And for these lucky few, there remained the small solace of proprioceptive/gustatory Sensato taste safaris, namely, brutal teriyaki, orange-rageous self-mastery, cream your self-consciousness, kiwi lime soul ripper, and tomato tubular temperance. Even in his adolescence, as an orbiter for several big-name cam whores and findoms, he'd never been so ultra-cucked. Footnote, in his prior existence, Jaihu had been a faithful servant to multiple findoms at once, with enough recurring charges on his clips for sale account to ensure that he never had any spending money, even going into debt more than a handful of times to please his mistresses. His favorites were Sarah Bukaki, Corey Chase, at Ruby_Madam, Goddess Hell, Samantha Sevencunts, Chanel Preston, Ashley Alban, Penny Prawnstomper, Fuck You Pay Me, parentheses, her legal birth name, bestowed in advance by her 3 industry-savvy mothers, and T.S. Leone Large. Khaleesi was posting time delay messages and nudes to Jaihu's nemesis. What purpose could this possibly serve? Necromancer Z, a.k.a. Bice, would never be able to reciprocate, as time travel only works in the forward direction. The only logical alternative was that she deliberately meant to emotionally boo-foo him and derail everything he was working towards. Absurd considering how she was the one who sent him on this mission in the first place. He knew that women were creatures of reason, truth, and compassion, so Khaleesi couldn't just be undermining everything to stir up emotional drama and chaos and make herself the center of attention. That seemed quite literally impossible to Jaihu. In fact, you would have had an easier time convincing him that rainbows were made of bubblegum, and that angel hair pasta is actually angel hair, and that if you swallow a watermelon seed, a watermelon grows inside you, and that all the smiling, nice people on TV weren't his friends and wouldn't actually care about him if they got to know him. I mean, it's crazy. Khaleesi's behavior defied all logical explanation. It could only be him. He had to be the weakest link. Jaihu determined that the love connection was getting garbled because he hadn't tried hard enough. He attempted to cope with the uncertainty of this possible betrayal by doubling down on the cross-epoch relationship, committing even more of his fragile, baby, plushy heart to this dazzling feminine creature, willing himself to be even more loving and accepting of her mysterious, goddess-like ways. Khaleesi would remain an enchanted doe, a baby deer, in his mind, prancing elegantly through the woods of primal, mystical, sexy consciousness. When he exited the piss-soaked, shit-encrusted hallways of the Sensato Hotel, there was a limousine waiting for him. The driver was half Malaysian, half reptile, and could only communicate through a sort of rattlesnake voice sac clicking vibration, like many Malaysians today. Instead of trying to talk, he just handed Jaihu an 8.5 by 11 sheet of holographic paper explaining the situation. Please excuse the Malaysian driver and do not touch his eggs. Insert mumbo jumbo here. You are hereby summoned to a royal audience with President Computers. Yada yada, more of the same here. Bice will be in attendance as well. Blah, 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 formalities, terms of service, warning not to show this letter to anyone, etc. Sincerely, the law offices of Shyster and Shyster, official legal representatives, and talent management for President Computers. Apparently, he and Bice had done such a good job destroying books that they'd both surpassed the world record, and so they were invited to a congratulatory luncheon with President Computers. Because Computers was a super powerful AI capable of partitioning off many hundreds of thousands of meet-and-greet virtual personae at once, it was technically not a rare honor to speak with the president. In fact, many rather ordinary accomplishments and events would automatically trigger a meeting with the president achievement. Most people, after having met the president several dozen times, usually just opted to decline whenever they'd purchased their 10th tube of chapstick or whatever other such thing. Two 1960s resto-modded Cadillac limousines carrying Jaihu and Bice glided up to the White House simultaneously from opposing angles. The cars were low and swooping, lacquered, technically not painted, with glazurate slightly darker black, a metamaterial matrix of molybdenum melanin microtubules that made most magnetoelectric motion diminish. Parentheses, it's exotic stuff that absorbs light. Footnote. Slightly whiter white and all colors lighter than mystery meat terracotta, with the exception of creamy kike taupe, had been banned from personal vehicles since 2109 due to their inherent racial insensitivity. The advanced coating also offered a degree of protection from small arms fire. The limos looked ominous as hell. It was raining orange acid, and although they were technically at a White House satellite branch, of which there were hundreds in malls, shopping plazas, and airports across Williamsburg, the scene was nevertheless heavy and cinematic. Also, Jaihu had always wanted to be chauffeured in a car through a crowded mall, and now this was his chance. Footnote. Rain came in many varieties. Sour apple, xenoestrogen, soda, period piss, and Accutane aid, tough on acne. Although H2O still precipitated from time to time, rain had come to mean any liquid which fell from the sky, including coupons in liquid form, which you'd have to catch with your mouth for discounts on great prizes. Jaihu and Bice stepped out from their respective limos wearing equally black garb. and went into the White House/Pink Box, parentheses, this White House satellite location was co-franchised with the much-loved frozen yoga-like store, without so much as a glance towards each other. Bice looked down at his Apple the Sequel 3 Wizotch, where a voxel-based model of Khaleesi's frumpy nude body was spinning on a revolving platform like they do with frozen steaks on home shopping networks. Bice smirked an insane, crooked smirk, thinking to himself that the smirk was imperceptible, when in actuality it was noticed by literally everyone in a 10-mile radius. Inside the White House was all pink marble splendor and brass elegance. Gleaming hygienic dildos dispensed cum yogurt directly into customers' mouths. There were portraits of all the great former Miss Presidents on the wall. Miss President Rodriguez, Miss President Sanchez, Miss President Valenzuela. All proud, inspiring, and stratospherically above ever making me a sandwich. A few patrons were giggling at the presidents' moving, winking faces, for these were active portraits with full audiovisual capabilities. The Miss Presidents would occasionally take a break from posing to promote their favorite yoga-like flavor, and if you had the scratch, you could get them to striptease. The coolest part of the White House was all the replica presidential trinkets and memorabilia, including a papier-mâché sculpture of First Lady Michelle Obama's penis. It was huge! Footnote. It was such a shame that First Lady Mike never got to become Miss President Mike, Jaihu thought, as he examined the memorabilia replica of the Chicago gang violence bullet that killed her. In one of the frozen yoga-like booths, a double robotics double 2 squared teleconferencing robot was waiting for them. On the display, none other than President Computers himself, or at least one of Computers' innumerable personae. This one was handsome, with a cleft chin, big bushy eyebrows, blue eyes, and icy blonde hair pulled into a tight man bun. "Hello, fashy guys," Computers smiled. If Jaihu's milkshake had arrived by now, it would be presently coming out of his nose. Such was his shock at the president's ironic white nationalism. He wasn't yet aware, of course, that the digitized character pattern of Richard Spencer was one of Computers' constituent subroutines. It wouldn't have been entirely inaccurate to suggest that most of the time Computers was at the whim, as it were, of the imperious Spencer software. Jaihu and Bice slid down one side of the diner-style booth. It was an undesirable seating arrangement for both of them, but they kept it copacetic for the sake of the president. They tried their hardest to keep from touching thighs and elbows, but this was impossible, for this was a White House Pink Box Express with a more limited selection of yoga-like flavors and smaller seats. Computers began by congratulating them both on their hard work. Footnote, this was not entirely true. Computers actually began by constructing virtual puppets in his head, which so perfectly mimicked the two boys that every possible branch of the dialogue tree was known to him well in advance. On the HUD inside his head, the dialogue option with the best outcome would be starred, though he would still have the ability to choose less favorable options should he feel like spicing things up. Then, technically, he congratulated the boys on their hard work. They exchanged pleasantries and honorific gesticulations, the common formalities of the era. Knight this, sir that, my liege, such and such, we bequeath unto ye. Thank you, my lord. Here's your honorary degree, yada yada, going, gone. Here's a coupon pack and some frequent flyer miles, etc., ad infinitum. Jaihu saluted, just like he'd seen in a movie once, while Bice bowed and put his hand across his heart. Then Jaihu attempted to stand at attention in the cramped diner-style seat. He was able to stand about halfway up, making his whole body rigid, but doing his best to convey honor and dignitas. Bice took one knee and spun in place while doing an elaborate curtsy to exemplify respect and show a restrained gratitude, as was the custom of the day. Jaihu, not wanting to be outdone, tucked his head low and tried to do a full split on the table. Evidently, this last gesture proved most satisfactory to Computers. The face on the double 2 squared nodded solemnly. The rite of presidential respect had been completed, and in a fashion so fine that the like had not been seen since it was first established over a century ago, when Jocko Willink honored Chris Kyle upon his return from his 4th tour of civilian shooting duty. All seemed well and good, when suddenly
Jaihu felt the underwater pressure wave sensation so familiar to him from his usage of the best-in-class noise-canceling Bose Quiet Comfort 35-2 gaming headset. Evidently, Bice was feeling it too. He clutched at his ears and grimaced like a wheelchair jockey in a loony bin who'd been deprived of his favorite Snuggie, but found no relief from the pulsing Bose-like punishment. The White House/Pink Box cashiers and other diners didn't even seem to notice. Not to mention, they were moving in slow motion. He did not know it, but Computers had encapsulated the three of them in a Huawei ransomware bubble, making it impossible for any potential prying eyes, ears, or spyware magica to listen in on their exchange. All thanks to a few clever Chinese state-sponsored time dilation/audio nullification algorithms. The tone instantly changed. Computers looked furtively from side to side, double-checking that they were indeed alone, and a spider-eye cluster of cameras sprouting from his iPad Airhead swept the room in tandem with his 3D avatar's gaze. He leaned in and spoke in hushed tones, but Jaihu and Bice were unable to hear him until two sets of earbuds wriggled their way, via concertina locomotion, up their legs, under their shirts, and deep into their ear canals.
Way deeper than necessary. Too deep. Doesn't make sense. Deeper than you'd ever reasonably have the need for. Medically deep.
Over the next 20 minutes, Computers outlined in vividly dark conspiratorial tones the problems and weaknesses with modern society, with detailed descriptions of attack vectors, analyses of their likelihood, and ways to neutralize them. The source of these malicious attacks was the source of nearly all chaos and iniquity in the world of 2177. Capital is M. Computers had been working toward the perfect utopia for over 100 years now. That was its core directive: to manage the wealth and productivity of the planet in a way that maximized fairness and equality. Jaihu could see that it was a brilliant machine, more powerful than any that had ever existed. But due to lack of net neutrality laws, its power, though massive, was still limited. On huge underground pipelines of pay-to-play dark web-enhanced premier internet packages, Computers was waylaid, sabotaged, ambushed at every step by money-grubbing ISPs. Meanwhile, on these same networks, Capital is M surfed along the miles of fiber optic cable with ease, penetrating Silk Road 26 and Silk Road 27 markets, buying and selling illegal, hacked information from the WikiLeaks store, wikileaks.bigcartel.com, hobnobbing with Stefan Tuol and Magical Tux, and generally amassing influence and power with other cliquey anti-Computers players. Footnote, if Jaihu had been more intelligent, he'd have noticed the use of the word players here, giving weight to the notion that the AIs saw the balance and struggle of human life as some kind of sick game. This was the sole reason for the failure of Computers: the greed and twisted, chaotic mischief-making of Capital is M and his accomplices. Computers was whispering now, deadly afraid that listeners in were catching on to his diabolical plan and schemes.
And that's where you guys come in?
Computers paused for impact, then continued. Well, first he paused a little bit longer to give Jaihu and Bice the opportunity to wanly smile or muster up a courtesy laugh at his use of goys in place of guys. However, it was clear that no such social kindness was to be forthcoming. Evidently, they did not even realize a joke had been made. He continued.
You are the perfect flunkies for Capital is M. You possess the trait he desires most in his supplicants, the ability to perform menial labor for long hours and low pay without complaining or unionizing. Because of your little show at the Booktorium, bravi, by the way, you are without question on his radar now. It's only a matter of time before he makes contact and attempts to assimilate you into his pool of human capital. It is imperative to my plan to saving human and robot society alike that you accept his venture capital offer and become my deep state stooges?
So, their uncanny ability to perform rote, mindless tasks with machine-like accuracy and speed meant that Jaihu and Bice were in a unique position to help. If all went according to plan, computers could finally gain a game-changing advantage in the decades-long fight for control over the levers of monetary and industrial power. The fellas had to admit, computers' plan of infiltrating his rival's organization seemed airtight. It was laid out something like this. Jaihu and Bice would accept capitalism's inevitable offer to become exploitable flunkies. They would toil their way up the food chain, retreading tires, hot gluing carpetbacks, applying caulk to PVC pipe joints, stamping pencil ferrules, and eventually, if all went according to computers' master plan, scraping gum off the sidewalk, cleaning it, and repackaging it for sale again. If they could manage to break into the inner sanctum of capitalism's new-to-you used gumball mafia, they could use that position of trust to gum up the works? Quite literally. Computers looked especially smug and self-satisfied. Even for an omnipresent AI, the smirking was a bit much. That's your master plan in full? Asked Bice.
Yup.
Computers replied, then simultaneously smirked, cocked an eye, and tilted his head down and to the left, like a magician tipping his hat to the crowd after the prestige. Good to know, Bice said, smirking so conspicuously and recklessly that it blew Jaihu's mind. There was a sharp bang, and a vape bomb exploded underneath the table, instantly filling the room with thick white root beer-flavored clouds. Bice snaked his arm around Jaihu's with unbreakable tightness and drew his black neoprene Acne Studios cloak up over his face, shielding his eyes. A light strobed from somewhere Jaihu couldn't see, scattered by the tasty vapor, but still bright as hell. It blinded the entire room. The last thing he felt was a strange hand from behind reaching for his neck to boofoo a shanking with a jet injector. Then he went to sleep.